might just eject, so many embers and stuff into the air. Maybe that's part of the reason why we are not seeing the helicopters at this point. It's just been ground crews, really. As I widen out, everything over like in this area has been extinguished. So to the north and the west, part of the fire is pretty much out. So that's definitely a sigh of relief for all the people at the very top of the ridgeline. But it's the eastern side of this that is such a problem. Let's see if we see any other structures that are under very serious threat right now. And you can see the smoke carrying here to the east. And we're still keeping an eye on this home right here. It's definitely looking worse and worse. We're starting to see smoke coming through the eaves.
Yep.
It's definitely infiltrated this home. So it's probably just a matter of time before we see this one going up in flames as well.
All right, we want to bring in Marina Jurica. She's joining us now with this coverage of the brush fires burning out in San Bernardino. Marina, we've talked about the high heat, the low humidity, the winds. We're seeing it all in action here, right?
Yes, unfortunately, we did know that this was going to be prime area for the potential for these fires to get started and then move quickly. You can see right now our wind gusts are up to 21 miles per hour in that San Bernardino area. So that's going to drive a fire pretty quickly. It is sustained at about 11 miles per hour, but it's really those gusty winds that are pushing it. You can see upwards towards the north. So west-southwesterly winds, but they're pushing in and then pushing that fire up towards the north of that area, which is what we can see very well here off of that live camera. So that will continue for at least the next couple of hours, especially with that diurnal heating in the afternoon, and you get that heat exchange. And then that really, this afternoon, this is the peak time when we see those wind gusts start to get enhanced. And it's 109 degrees there right now, Juan.
Wow.
And they actually topped everybody out yesterday in this area at 106. And we knew that today and tomorrow it was just going to get progressively hotter. And of course, we do continue to have that excessive heat warning for this exact area as well until Tuesday at 8 p.m. So by midweek, we will have relief, but that doesn't help what's happening right now. And the humidity levels, like you said, are extraordinarily low. The dew points are very low, and the winds are just going to continue to drive this at about 20 to 25 miles per hour.
Marina, those windy conditions, I felt it even coming into work today, walking into the studio, you could feel that dry heat in your face. So it's not only limited to this area of San Bernardino or Riverside or our mountain communities, even in the valleys and in the basin as well, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, anywhere inland where we are continuing to see these low dew points, we continue to see this afternoon wind gust events across the entire region just because of the temperature differential. And so because we have these temperatures that are different between the overnight during the day, and then of course that gets impacted most in the prime time heating hours, which is right now. And then we see these winds really start to take off between that 2 to 6 p.m. hour. So this is that time frame, and everything is so dry right now, Juan. I mean, it's just dry, and we saw such a wet winter, so we have tons of fuel out there.
A lot of brush.
Right, and so, we have just a lot of potential for this to happen anywhere, and so that's why, we've been talking really for the last couple of weeks. Not only is this the time when we see a lot of this happening just because of the afternoon wind gusts, the low dew points, as well as just this excessive heat that has only been exacerbated, over the last couple of months, that is just a prime target area for the valleys. Really anywhere that has got a lot of this brush, that saw a lot of those rain and flooding events, over the winter and the spring. And these are the areas, the Inland Empire, our valleys, anywhere in the mountains, because we've been dealing with a lot of dry lightning too. So unfortunately, this is just the time that when we see a lot of this happening. And
Marina, we often talk about those sundowner winds. Are you expecting the winds to pick up a little later this afternoon?
We are, and they haven't been to criteria level yet. That's mostly been more in like the Santa Barbara County central coastal areas that have been dealing with a lot of the sundowners. But we have been dealing with still, 20 to 30 miles per hour, which is still below criteria, but enough to take something like this and rapidly make it a critical situation. So really, it's only been the central coastal California that's seen the critical levels at about 40 to 50 miles per hour right now, but monitoring those sundowners because, as you know, I mean, this is the prime time for those to happen as well. Right now, the critical levels, and of course, the ones that have been given the warnings have stayed in the central coastline area, but those could continue to move down towards the south, especially as the high pressure increases. That's the problem. It's sitting in the Four Corners and it's dominating for 48 hours, and it's really not going to relinquish and that really helps the sundowners get that energy from. So it doesn't relinquish its energy until the middle of the week. So we could be dealing with this all the way through Wednesday.
Wow, and those triple digits temps don't help. Okay, Marina, thank you so much for that. And Mike Rogers and Desmond Shaw continuing to following this breaking news story of this brush fire burning homes in the San Bernardino area. And the incredible thing, right, Mike, is that Desmond was saying, we've been at this for just over an hour, and just how quickly this fire has raged and has taken so many homes.
And those hillsides, and and I think Des is looking at another home that's on fire too. That would probably make the fourth home that we've seen burn. I do want to point out, we've talked to San Bernardino County Fire, and they have said that there have been no injuries at this point. So that's at least the good news. And I am listening to them on the frequency. Now they are talking about aircraft. So I don't know, again, we've talked about kind of a seemingly delay. There may have been a tactical reason behind that or an operational reason behind that, but I am hearing them now asking for an aircraft. I don't know if it's a fixed wing or if it's a helicopter to come up on a frequency. So we'll see. I'm not seeing any on the radars. Des, I don't know if you and Mike have heard any come out of San Bernardino yet.
Not at this point, no. We're still waiting to hear more about this as we look at now just getting worse and worse for this home. We believe off of Vista and Circle Drive. It looks like a truck in the yard is going up. Whatever this is incredibly toxic, that thick black smoke. Whenever you see that black as night smoke, it is a lot of really bad stuff that is burning right there. All of these trees as well. There's just, here we go as we zoom in. And look, we've got a lot of people that are down in this area now that are trying to get out. You've got people here with a garden hose that think that they can, do something if this looks like a whole family. But again, with the brush, the brush right up against the home, you've got this big tree as well that's almost touching. As we've got this person here desperately trying with, looks like he's got a fire extinguisher and some hose lines, but there's just no way. There's just not enough pressure from a little garden hose. It just cannot cool the fire down fast enough to be able to prevent its spread. I mean, these people are really in harm's way right now as the fire is at their doorstep. I mean, you could just imagine the distress that they're in. Of course, extremely emotional situation, but I hope that at the very least they have all of their belongings packed and ready to go if the flames do get any closer, because this is really as close as it gets for these folks here.
Well, if you're just joining us now, this is an early edition of KCAL News at 4 o'clock following breaking news in San Bernardino. And as you're looking here, the mad rush right now as homeowners right now try to save their home before fire gets to it. A fire that broke out just over an hour ago. It has taken several homes already. We know it is very hot out there. It is very dry, and those windy conditions that Marina Jurica was telling us about, those are not helping the situation, as is the incredible amount of brush that you're seeing out there. We know we've had record rain over the last year, given an opportunity for all this foliage to grow. And again, you can see a lot of people out there now. We didn't see a lot of people earlier, but now it seems like the word is out in this community. They're trying to do the best they can to get out if they have to. Mike, you were telling us Marshall High School is an evac center, right? Yeah, that's right. And I'm actually I'm going to ask our control room when they get a second if they can pull up my computer here. I know that's going to take a minute because San Bernardino Fire just put out where the evacuation order is. I also want to point out this is now called the Edgehill Fire. So we'll work on showing you the map, but in the meantime, I can tell you that residents living on the south side and south of Ridgeline Drive are all asked to evacuate. Residents living on the north side and north of Edgehill Drive, west to include Beverly Drive and Circle Road, are also asked to evacuate. And Juan, as you mentioned, Marshall Elementary School is the evacuation site for residents 3288 North G Street, which is exactly, and as I'm looking at Desmond's picture, it looks like an RV that's caught fire. And I want to point that out because that just shows you how these embers work, right? There is nothing around that RV that is on fire, but now the RV is on fire,
and it is lifting into that tree. On the right side of your screen, that's the evacuation map. I know it's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can pull something up to highlight it for you. But this is the evacuation area that we're talking about, everything in yellow here. Just give me 1 second.
And you know, Mike, you're talking about flying embers while you bring up that map. They can travel several miles, right?
Right.
Before they land on wherever it needs to land. And that's what you see happening in these situations. Why those homes just to the right of that box that you're building there on the map, that's a big concern.
Yeah.
That those embers can fly and this fire can continue to travel. So tell us about the evacs. Mike.
Yeah, so right here, I kind of highlighted it in red for you here, but this is Ridgeline Drive that you see on the map. So all of this area in here, and unfortunately all of this is burned. Some of the homes that we're talking about that are burning are, I believe, down in this area. But so you've got this Edgehill on the south, and then you come up all the way to the right and up top to the Ridgeline Drive. That whole thing is where the evacuation order is. And Juan, to your point earlier, you've got this area down here that is heavily populated.
Right.
You know, in this area, we've got a little bit more sporadic of these homes down in here, but you know, this is where they're evacuating right now, all of this inside of this red box. So that's the area that for now they are concerned about. And again, you know, they say 5 acres was the last official update, I'm sure, at this point. And Des, tell me if you agree that it's bigger than that at this point, as we unfortunately are continuing to look at homes burn.
Yeah, definitely. It takes some time to get the updates on the official acreage on this one, but this is, you know, really, really sad because it looked like, I mean, even though this home was pretty close to obviously right across the cul-de-sac with the home that was burning, this is beginning to die down, and it was looking like this home might be out of the woods until all it took was an ember or two to came and caught the roof of this RV. And like you said, Mike, it's going to spread to this tree, and this tree is, right there over this property. So now this home is back in some serious danger. A very, very beautiful home. We know at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 homes. So there's one of the first ones that we saw go up. There's another one up here that is also just beginning to burn itself out. Look at that, almost nothing left.
And I think, Des, there was one even
the structure
further to the south
collapsed.
of you, too.
Yeah. Yes, so we have those, and then the Spanish style one that we were still keeping an eye on, which, I mean, is definitely still burning, but it hasn't erupted into flames the way that we've seen the other ones, and still not seeing any support from the fire department on those homes. Let's widen out and show you this home that's very, very close. But we have the firefighters in the yard here. Looks like they're making a pretty good stand on the flames there. That's on the western edge of the fire. And then let's go and check on all these poor folks that were down in this area that were trying to save their home. You know what? It's actually looking a little better than it did a couple of minutes ago. We're getting Mike, if we can just turn the chopper a little bit, getting a little bit of exhaust in the shot here. But yeah, if this is, it looks like maybe a multi-family home here. You have a main, actually several dwellings here. It looks like this is the main home. It's a pretty large property. Maybe have a couple of guest homes as well. So if this is all like one huge family that lives here, but everyone's scrambling around to do whatever they can to save this home, and we'll see if their efforts pay off. They might actually. You know, they are really close to in harm's way. But you see this guy out here with a hand fire extinguisher there. They have some hose lines, maybe some shovels out there, but you know, again, no brush clearance, and so it's a very, very scary situation for these folks here off of Edgehill Road.
Yeah, and Des and Juan, we're just getting an update from San Bernardino County Fire, who says they're now requesting help from Riverside Fire as well. So Riverside County is coming in as we watch these flames make a run for, are those 2 separate houses, Des, or is that one house?
This all looks like one separate home, and
look how quickly
now,
this
the
is
fire
exploding.
going uphill again.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that San Bernardino County Fire just mentioned to us, Juan and Des, is there are 24 homes that are threatened here. Several of them have already burned. Firefighters are having a very difficult time, they say, because of the lack of brush clearance around these homes. That is what the fire department just told us, as we've been telling our viewers as well. The other thing that they said is it is 109 degrees out there right now, which is making it very difficult for them to kind of get in place. And they say because of the heat, it is just chewing through this vegetation so quickly.
109, Mike?
109,
wow.
That's what the fire department just told us. And as it burns right up to this patio, and unfortunately, I mean, you've got a firefighter there on the patio, but with no water. It looks like there's an engine back there. So we'll see if they can get a line over the balcony here before it's able to make its way into that patio.
So unfortunate too, and you're just seeing the fire explode here as Desmond was showing us how quickly it's moving uphill like the fire likes to do. It travels a lot quicker uphill. And Desmond, we're seeing a lot more black smoke here now, right?
Yeah, now on the other side of this home here, it looks like coming out of the eastern side of this home. So definitely chewing through a lot of material, family heirlooms, who knows what all may be in there. There was another home, I'll see if I can find it again, that had what looked like a patio that was burning. It may have been this home right here, but this is another really bad situation, as it's right in the path of the upward traveling of the fire, with brush right up against the hillside here. So you see these firefighters in the home. I'm sure, hopefully they're checking to see if there's any animals or anything in the home, and they can get them out. I have to imagine that the homeowners are already out, but we'll see if they're going to have any luck saving that home as we widen out. We'll give you the wider picture here off of Edgehill Road. But absolutely devastating.
Wow.
And it just happened so fast. I just can't believe how quickly this happened out here.
Yeah, about an hour and a half that this fire has been burning, now called the Edge Fire, burning in San Bernardino. And as you can see there, Desmond Shaw showing us the map tracker there, giving you an exact idea of where this fire is burning. And it's actually spreading to different homes in that area there. And the concern, of course, is if the embers will fly in this windy condition that we have out there, that the fires can continue spreading.
Yeah,
right?
and really quick one, Des, where all that black smoke is, that's where that RV was. Is that moved at all to is it still just burning the RV, it looks like? Or there's fire behind it now, is that the tree?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the tree and maybe part of the lawn here. We'll see if we can move a little to the west and the north and see if we can see behind this tree and see what's burning. But all of that black smoke,
yeah.
Oh man, and this home is really beginning to burn now. This one has kind of a typical roof. It does not look to be one of those fireproof roofs. And this is another way that the fire just, you get a little bit caught underneath the eaves, and then you get the winds blowing it. And that is how it spreads to this home. So this is another one that is in serious jeopardy right now. We might see this one erupting into flames. And yeah, this tree beginning to go up right where this RV is on fire, and now burning some of the landscaping right up to the front door of this really nice home on Vista Drive.
Wow.
Incredible, right, Mike? Just
Yeah,
how quickly
it's just...
this fire is spreading. And what we can't see is what's underneath those trees. There could be a lot of dry brush. There could be a lot of just dead branches, which of course catch fire very quickly. And you can see more flames now pouring out of the roof of this house right here. You can see the air conditioning unit right on top there. Again, it's not going to take long. If the fire is already in the attic, even if firefighters get to it and start to punch holes in the roof to help ventilate a little bit, this home is going to be a total loss. And we're still waiting on some air support. We're waiting on some more ground support.
Yeah, and we asked San Bernardino about the air support or lack thereof, and the representative told us that they don't know. They're going to look into that for us and figure out why. And again, it's very possible that they made that decision to not do that, although seems strange. I mean, at least, the houses that are totally burning, they could at least put water on those, or, maybe have stopped the brush a little early on. But again, as we've pointed out, we've not even seen, we saw some of those hand crews, those ground crews on the patio there of that home, but they didn't have any water with them. So we get into these areas too, you wonder if it's a water issue or a lack of, available hydrants or what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
But the fire department says they're there. I am listening. I just heard them also request some help from the Ontario Fire Department, which is not too far away. But it's unfortunate how quickly this got out of hand. The representative from the fire department told us the fire is burning out of control at this point. So doing their best certainly to get a handle on it. It just doesn't seem like they maybe had all of the resources that would have benefited them early on in this.
Yeah, and watching it from SkyCal, Mike, I really feel for these homeowners. I can feel the desperation and just trying to get the upper hand on this. But when it's moving so quickly, you really do need those air resources to help smother those flames with a really strong air drop, a water drop, and some fire retardant as well to keep the fires from moving, but as Desmond was showing us earlier, those homes that did have the nice brush clearance, those are faring very well because the fire stopped exactly where the brush was cleared. But in areas where the brush is really touching the eaves of these homes, really close to these homes, these are small compounds or large compounds of the homes and whatnot, you can see what's happening here.
And I did just hear again from the incident commander down there asking dispatch, hey, we placed the order for the helicopters, right? And they said, yep. And so the helicopters are coming from CAL FIRE. So they're not the San Bernardino County helicopters. They're going to come from CAL FIRE, which still, launch out of San Bernardino. So San Bernardino County. I don't know if it's San Bernardino Airport or if it's Chino maybe, but hopefully we'll be seeing them soon. But again, the incident commander once again asking, hey, where are those aircraft?
And where are they, right? And Mike, there was no other fire burning in the area, right, where they would be
diverted
somewhere else,
No,
right?
I mean, we had one Des saw on the way in the Whittier Narrows, but that's LA County. They've got their own set of resources and aircraft. And on that fire, I can tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 helicopters, and that's in an area where it's not even burning homes. So, hopefully we'll see. Sorry, I'm just listening to some radio traffic. But hopefully we'll start to see some of these CAL FIRE helicopters take off. And I think they take off. Des, do they take off out of Chino?
I'm not entirely sure that that may be correct. I know they've definitely seen quite a few at San Bernardino Airport before, and that's also where I know they keep the air tankers. Unfortunately, the tankers really aren't going to be of too much use, I don't think, on this home. I mean, we have seen them dispatched in the past where they just drop a whole bunch of fire retardant really quickly on the tops of homes. I'm thinking of a fire in Santa Clarita and Castaic where that was pretty effective, but now that this fire has just gotten so out of control so quickly in such a tight area, just not sure how effective that will be. We'll move the chopper a little bit to the south and the east here. My pilot Mike doing a great job up here trying to maneuver SkyCal around a lot of trees to try to peer through and around that RV that's burning down to the asphalt practically. Still some hope for this home right here. We haven't seen any active flame actually on the home, but as close as you can get with this RV, and obviously so much to burn there with all the fluids, the gas, the oil. I mean, we might see some pops there if it hits the fuel tank, which could, spread the fire farther. This home is practically all ash now at this point. This fire here, this home which has been burning really, really slowly, looks to be an older home, maybe built sometime in the early 20th century. I mean, still a lot of, you're starting to see some really intense flames there, but we've been watching this home for a while, so that's going to be solidly 3 homes that are probably going to burn down to the foundation, and then their neighbors as well. This home where we saw the firefighters, they're out there, look at right there, the smoke's starting to overwhelm them on the patio, but they are still there doing whatever they can to save this one.
Okay, so now there's some water on there, which is good. Is that home to the left a little bit further? Is that on fire as well, or is it just, it's so hard to see with all the smoke down there? Right in there,
yeah. Really tough to see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is another thing that's really difficult with, you just start to, sometimes these fires just produce so much smoke that homes are enveloped in it, and then we have no idea what's happening under that smoke until it clears, and then, a lot of times, sadly, by the time the smoke clears, we see that they have been victims as well. But here we do have this home beginning to burn, as I think this is the one that had the patio that I saw right here.
Right, yeah. You can see
and
the
that's
flames
now spreading to the main home. And look at, and unfortunately, the way that this home is constructed, it looks like it has, this was just really easy for fire to get underneath those eaves and spread into the roof and creep into the home. And you can see the palm trees swaying here, which we were hearing, it breezes up to 20 miles an hour. So just all of the factors in the fire's favor right now. The temperature, obviously, the breeze, the fuel, the lack of brush clearance, and the upward topography. Just horrible, horrible situation. Shandon Hills, the name of this area. Didn't know of that before we came out to this section of San Bernardino. This is just to the north of the 210 and east of the 215, where we have close to half a dozen homes now that look like they may be lost, guys.
Well, if you're just joining us right now, this is KCAL News at 4 o'clock, also streaming live on CBS News Los Angeles. A wildfire burning homes right now in the San Bernardino area in the Shandon Hills part of San Bernardino, to be exact. You can see firefighters there on what looks like an outside patio or balcony, continuing to douse the brush that comes right up to the home with lots of water in hopes of stopping the fire from spreading to this home. We've already seen several homes lost due to this fire that started about an hour and a half ago, and you can see in that short amount of time and in the time that we've been on just how quickly this fire has spread. We have very warm conditions out there, temperatures in the triple digits, low humidity, the winds that Marina Jurica was telling us about. We are expecting the winds to pick up a little later this afternoon as those sundowner winds are going to pick up. And you can see just how much of this fire has affected the entire area right here. As you see there on your screen, there is an evacuation center open at Marshall Elementary. I believe it's Marshall High School, right, Mike? It's Marshall High School, right?
Marshall, I think it is Marshall Elementary. Let me just look through the notes here.
I wrote down high school, so maybe
Yeah,
it's
Marshall Elementary.
It is Marshall Elementary. Okay, that is correct. Marshall Elementary.
Yeah.
You see the address right there, 3288 North G Street. And Mike, have you heard anything else when it comes to more resources coming into the area? Look, we're seeing some homeowners there running around this White House here. And it looks like this family has done
all up in the brush back there.
A lot of brush, and you can see a lot of people in that brush. They're putting water down. We saw somebody with a fire extinguisher. And again, this family who lives here, by all definitions, did everything correct, right? Except for that brush clearance. They have solar panels on the roof of their house, pretty well-sustained house. But now, look at all that brush that comes right up to that home here. That's now in danger of being lost due to this fire burning in the Shandon Hills area.
And Juan, really quick, I'm going to ask the controller one more time if they can show my computer. I want to show you some pretty dramatic video. This is from a stringer that is in the area on the right side of the screen. This is RMG News that shot this video, and you can see that home totally on fire there. And you know you can't hear the audio on it, but there is people screaming in the background. You see that guy who looks like he's probably trying to get out of the area. But look at all of the trees, the shrubs, the brush. I mean, we keep talking about that over and over again, but really dramatic video here, Juan. Really
dramatic. You can see how windy it is right there, Mike. That's a big concern there. And again, just a lot of brush, which is going to be, I guess, the biggest factor here in getting this fire under control. Homeowners grabbing what they can. This guy you see right here with the backpack and whatever he could grab, throwing it in the back seat of his car. Also just trying to get out. And of course, there's a danger. I remember many years covering fires out there. You're asked not to turn your car off. Yeah. Because there's a problem with that if you turn the car off, it may not turn on again. Have you heard of that, Mike?
I've heard of that, as well as, and if we could take Desmond's pictures full again. Yeah, I'm going to look for another piece of video here. But that, and because if fire crews need to jump in and move your car, you know, as journalists, when we cover fires, they're always taught, or reporters and photographers always taught to leave the keys to the live van in the truck. That way, if fire crews need to come in and move it to get out of the way or to have additional resources, they can.
And many times they would tell us, Mike, not only leave the live truck on, but leave the air conditioning running as well, just in order for the cabin inside the van, if we needed to shelter in place or whatnot, would be a little easier to breathe. But look at all that black smoke billowing over the San Bernardino area. Again, the Shandon Hills area, where several homes have already been lost, and the race continues at this hour to do what you can out there, as Desmond shows us here from the sky and from video earlier, doing all they can to save these homes. But for so many of these homes that we've seen over the last hour and a half, it is just too late. Fire has already made its way into the house, into the attic, and once that spreads, it's just a matter of time. And again, getting resources there. We're now hearing that there are several air units heading into the area to help basically, hopefully, squash some of these flames. It is just too much, Mike, right? Even for firefighters with hoses on these fires to fight Mother Nature here, it is just insane how quickly this fire has spread. And look in Desmond's live picture there on the left, you can see that white home with the roof. It's going up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's a home that we've been watching that we were hoping was just going to have some of that outside damage, but it definitely looks like they've got fire through the roof at this point. And unfortunately, You know, that's just one of many homes. On the right side of the screen is video that we've looked at earlier. And, you know, as Des was pointing out, when we get these really big, intense fires with all that very thick black smoke, it's hard to tell what's burning underneath of the smoke as well. You know, and that is directly in the fire's path there. So who knows how many other structures or homes are actually burning underneath of it, because it's difficult to see through that smoke. And that big black toxic smoke is coming from that RV. That RV is continuing to burn. Those RVs, we see them, you know, here in LA too, when they catch on fire, those things will burn forever, and they burn hot. And as Des pointed out, there's so much toxic materials that they're all made of.
And a lot of families, I know, when they're not using them, they might use them as a storage facility for some of their things, just keep things in there, kind of like a storage shed. So again, who knows what was inside that RV when it caught fire. Of course, a big concern when you have something like that near your property, properties that are now going up in flames. You can see it looks, should we take the live picture full so we can see it a little bit better, just what's going on there? Look at that, Mike. There's not much left but a foundation and some brickwork on this home you're looking at right there.
Right, and the other thing I really wanted to quickly point out is one of our assignment editors talked with San Bernardino County Fire, who tells us these, you know, when we see kind of these larger homes, sometimes they could be vacation homes, things like that. We're told that everybody that lives in this neighborhood are permanent residents. So these are people who live here year round. So, you know, these are families and people that live here that are losing their homes, losing their livelihood. You know, that home on the top of the hill there, it seems like some of these things just didn't even have a chance. You know, we watched firefighters on that one balcony with a hose line trying to keep the fire at bay there. But then you see the homes like the one at the top of the screen right there that just really didn't stand a chance and were gone almost before this thing even started. As you know, the fire started about 2:40 this afternoon.
Yeah, and let's hope, Mike, that these homeowners still have insurance, because we've been reporting in the news how many of these homes in these areas, many insurers just dropped coverage, and if these families haven't had a chance to find other carriers to go with, they may be in a heap of trouble here trying to get these homes rebuilt, whether or not they have enough insurance to cover the damage here. You can see this home here looks okay. It looks pretty good, Desmond.
Maybe
right?
an outbuilding.
I'm looking at the backyard here. It looks like maybe the outbuilding, maybe a fire pit. That's the area there that's most damaged. But you know, from the pool on, it looks okay right now.
Yep, and this is a home that looks like it had pretty decent brush clearance as well. You can see how there was nothing to burn right here, and so the fire just, you know, got there and then had enough and burned itself out. So firefighters still on the scene, making sure that nothing whips up, because this is kind of in the path of the way that the winds are blowing right now. And, you know, we don't even need really strong Santa Ana winds. Really, we've seen some incredibly destructive fires when we have breezes that are just 5, 10, maybe 15 miles an hour with a little gust here and there to 20 miles an hour. But when everything else is working in the fire's favor, it is more than enough to create a lot of destruction very, very quickly. So we've just surveyed the entire area here. We just did one big circle around this Shandon Hills area, and I count at least 4, possibly 5 homes that have gone up, and some ones that are in serious jeopardy right in here, where the fire department, well, let's see as we zoom in if we can see. Let's just stay on the south side here now, Mike. There, I do see some water here. It looks like the fire is, it's right here on the doorstep, may even be burning some of the posts of this patio. But there's a real concerted effort by the firefighters to try to prevent this from spreading any further, to try to save this home here off of Circle Road and Vista Drive. Starting to see a lot of water being poured on this one, but you see how hard those fire crews have to work when there's no brush clearance. You just compare this to what I had just showed you earlier with that home that had really good brush clearance, and you know, that home is still fully intact. As we come down here, just along on Edgehill Drive, this is where we saw the family here of this sprawling home that have been working to try to make sure that they stop. They're doing everything they can with fire extinguishers and hose lines, and so far so good. You know,
it looks like they're doing a pretty good job there, Desmond.
Yeah, that doesn't really look like they have any interest in leaving. There are a lot of people down here, maybe a lot of folks that live on this. It looks like maybe 3 or 4 homes on this property, and just scrambling all over the place, doing anything they can to prevent the fire from infiltrating their property. We see some hose lines down here, so you know, very emotional, very tough, but so far looking okay for this home. This is on Edgehill Road, which is where we also believe where the fire started just about an hour or so ago.
Well, before we get to Marina Jurica with more on the forecast, Mike, you have some more information?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know we are finally starting to see a CAL FIRE helicopter on their way. They do lift off close to Chino. I forgot CAL FIRE out there has their own helipad. So they're coming up out of the Chino area. It's a Black Hawk that's coming. Right now they're coming in the kind of the Bloomington area. So they should be on scene soon. We'll see kind of what their game plan with it is. Wow, is that fire, that home totally going up now.
Really hot too.
Yeah.
All right, we want to bring in Marina Jurica. We've been talking about the weather conditions out there. Marina, we know it's hot, windy, humidity's not helping out. What's the latest?
Yeah, this is prime time, especially during this afternoon heating hours. That ground heats up, the air starts to rise, you get that mixing and that movement, and the wind gusts are driven by that. And that's why we're seeing the wind gusts currently at about 20 miles per hour coming in from the south-southwest. And you can see that's exactly how the fire is getting driven. It's getting driven in that exact direction up towards the north and the northeast. And that will continue throughout the afternoon because we're going to continue to see very hot, dry weather with breezy conditions at 20 to even possibly up to 30 miles per hour because we get the height of our winds closer that we get to sunset, right? And so we're going to continue to see this for the next few hours. It's 109 degrees there right now. So they are continually under an excessive heat warning. And it's not only this region, but we have to know that entire valleys, the Inland Empire, it's just hot spots right now through Tuesday night until we can start to shift that high pressure out of here and get our dew points up a little bit and get our winds dying down a bit and get our temperatures down a bit, that our unfortunate fire risk starts to clear up a bit. But that's not until Wednesday. And right now it is critical one.
Marina, you're saying conditions will maybe start getting a little better midweek?
Yes. So by Wednesday, we start to get that high pressure off of us. And because of that, that will allow for at least the control of that high pressure to break up that dome that's on top of us right now. And that will allow for our winds to die down, our temperatures to go down, and it will also allow for us to get more of a relief when it comes to just this dry, low humidity air that we've been dealing with now for really, this is the 5th day.
It's no surprise we've been talking about these conditions, these really hot summers that we've been having, that heat dome, the high pressure system that just parks itself over us. So this is no surprise. So it's a good idea for some of these homeowners to really make sure that they have good brush clearance, that they prepare, they have an exit strategy. If they have to leave their home, grab the important paperwork or pictures or whatever they need to do, because as you're saying, Marina, we're going to have a little bit of a break, but maybe not till Wednesday. And, fall is not for weeks. We're not anywhere close to fall, right?
Yeah, we're not anywhere near there yet. And we had such a wet, and we've talked about this so many times, wet winter, wet spring. And we had storms all the way into April and May. And so there's plenty of dry brush fuel for these fires. And they've got plenty of it out there. And it just goes to show you how good preparation is. I mean, you've showed some of those homes that really got that brush fire out of there. And, they've been saved so far. And so preparation is key, and that's what it comes down to, especially this time of year when this is the height of our fire season and all the elements are coming together as we expected they would moving forward into the season. And we have at least another month or two that we're going to be dealing with this.
Yeah, no doubt. And Marina, we want to show now a little bit of the evacuations here on your screen right there, south side of and south of Ridge Line Drive. Also, north side and north of Edgehill Road, west to and including Beverly Drive. And again, as we've been mentioning, that evacuation center open at Marshall Elementary School. You see the address there, 3288 North G Street. That might be a great location to set up with any family members or if you have friends in the area as a meeting location, because it's going to be very chaotic in this area, and I'm sure they're going to want to keep the roads clear for any fire crews or any emergency vehicles that need to get in there. And of course, we're monitoring this from the air with our Desmond Shaw and also Mike Rogers on the desk. Mike, what do you have?
Yeah, I was just about to tell Desmond, it looks like that CAL FIRE Black Hawk is over the fire now, Des. So I don't know if you can see them making a drop or at least thinking about where they want to make a drop, but I do see them on the radar over the fire at this point. I also am listening to the radio here So the way they work these fires is they have the engines, they have the personnel on the fire, then they have what's called staging, right, where they can have additional resources ready to bring in. One of the incident commanders there asked for, hey, I need engines out of staging. We have homes that are about to go up. The incident commander said, we have nobody in staging. Everybody we have is here fighting the fire.
Wow.
And then I heard them put in a request for 5 additional engines from anywhere. Oh, and here we go. Now we have a new problem.
Desmond, what do you see? Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. So this is okay. So there's that water dropping helicopter, and I bet that this is probably where they're going to attack, because they might be able to stop this in its tracks before it becomes too dangerous to drop on the home. So let's show, this is at the top of that ridgeline where it looked like things were going well. So this street right here, as we widen out, this is Ridgeline Road. And look, all of a sudden now we have some towering flames coming up here, and these homes are definitely under threat. Although, again, we were kind of, well, we'll see how the brush clearance is here. We do see quite a bit of shrubbery, you know, really close, but maybe at least a little bit of clearance right there in front of these front yards. But the firefighters are here ready to meet the flames. They already have some hose lines up, so we'll see if they're able to stop this part of the fire in its tracks. But nice to at least see that one water dropping helicopter here on the scene. And this, like I was saying, Mike, this looks like an area that they should be able to attack pretty effectively here, right here on this hillside.
And Juan, I'm listening to some more radio traffic. They asked the incident commander if they want to do a different type of operational plan, which would open them up to being able to get 25 additional engines into this.
Wow.
The incident commander said yes. So we'll see if they want all 25, but it at least gives them the option to bring in 25 additional engines. I've also heard radio chatter here about bringing in help from LA County.
I was going to say, where would those come from?
Yeah,
Mike?
so
from San Bernardino?
They've already asked for Riverside County, so Riverside is already there.
Yeah.
They've got mutual aid from within San Bernardino County, so they've got Cal Fire, San Bernardino County Fire. I've heard Ontario Fire involved in this as well. And now it sounds like they are also requesting from LA County Fire. And yeah, now I'm listening to the dispatch. I heard just now probably at least 10 additional engines get dispatched to the fire. So they're really trying to bring in whatever they can. And you know, there are certain different engines do different things, right? There are brush trucks, there are fire engines, there are ladder trucks, and generally they want the brush rigs to come out here. But as we watch this home burn, that incident commander said, anything you've got, I'll take any type of engine. We just need some more resources out here.
And when you're looking at that amount of resources heading into the area, Mike, that means that there's still a lot of uncertainty, right? As to when this fire might be put out, as to when they might get the upper hand on this, and whether it's going to spread to that neighboring community that you just saw earlier here in the broadcast, where you saw there's a lot of homes there. It is still windy out there. The concern of embers flying.
Right. Well, and you know, as you and Marina were kind of talking, Des and I was listening to some additional radio traffic about residents calling in and saying there's, you know, another home burning. And when Des and I tried to look, it is under that black smoke. So my next concern is, as soon as some of this smoke goes away, how many more homes are we going to see that have burned underneath that smoke? Because there is a decent, I believe, Des, and correct me if I'm wrong, there looks like to be a decent chunk of homes that we can't see under the smoke, right?
Yes, yeah, there definitely is. Here's one right here that we're getting a little bit of a view of. Haven't seen this home yet, not seeing any active flame on that one, but just look at this smoke here as it billows to the north and the east. And this is one of the newer homes here that we saw that looks like it's just being completely gutted by the flames. We saw there are some firefighters down there. I saw some of the water kind of spraying through the fire there, so they've definitely been trying, but it's almost like a triage operation out here with these firefighters. What can we save? What is going to be a loss? How can we mitigate this? Maybe try to at least prevent it from spreading to neighboring homes. But it's just an impossible task for them when you have all of these factors. So good to hear that there's more engines coming to the scene, and we'll see. You know, oh, look at, here's that RV, which is just a pile of slag now that's melted basically down to the asphalt. Looks like there was a car right behind it as well. This vehicle suffered some serious fire damage, as all that is left here, practically nothing of this
There's nothing
home
there.
right on the hillside, just basically ash. And this one is going to be the same way. You know, it looked like maybe early on there could have been some hope for this home, but they weren't able to get any help here before the flames crept inside, and then it just completely exploded, ripping that home to ash. And then this home as well has been burning so long, it's almost out. And again, as we zoom all the way in,
That's crazy.
not even a chimney left standing.
Yeah, I was going to say, not even a chimney. And what's incredible, we've been on the air for not even an hour, or just over an hour, and just there's nothing left. Like you said, it's a burn scar. There's very little remnants of a home. And think about it. There's furniture in there, appliances, you know, bathrooms, whatnot. Everything, just basically how quickly this fire has consumed these homes there, and just all that black billowing smoke that we still see in the area, and the fire continuing to spread, and finally resources heading in the direction where the fire is. Desmond, do we know if there's a nearby water source that they're going to be able to use to suck up the water on these helicopters and head over?
There definitely is. There's definitely some water sources out here. I'm just kind of peering out the window to see if I can see directly where they might be. But I know, like up in the hillside, you know, all over Southern California, they'll have these really large, strategically placed tanks where a lot of times they can just land a helicopter, you know, right next to it and load it up with water and do a pretty quick turnaround. I don't see any open reservoirs right here in the San Bernardino area. You know, sometimes if they have the opportunity, they'll just dip into a golf course if they have like an artificial lake or something, but I don't see one of those immediately either. So, you know, that may be another issue, just the turnaround time for these choppers to bring them in and get water. It looks like it may be another factor that is working against the firefighters right now.
I was just watching, Desmond, when you had a wider shot there, I saw that Edgehill Road. It's just to the south of that of your shot right there, and just look at how much brush, trees, and whatnot is in that area, and a lot of homes that are along Edgehill Road right there. Huge concern there for those homeowners, and we do see the firefighters up there, just kind of like you know, just watering down the hillside in hopes of that the fire doesn't move into this area here.
Yep, these folks might have gotten really lucky because look at how thick the brush is. It leads right up to their home, but because they're at the bottom of the hill and it's harder for, you know, to fire to burn downhill, and so they were able to get a couple of firefighters up here with hose lines, and it looks like they're just making sure that nothing reignites here off of Edgehill Road. So hopefully these homes at the very bottom of the hill are going to be okay. But I have to imagine it's just very frustrating for these firefighters to come out and see this kind of situation where they basically, you know, the homeowners have basically created a situation where it's just created a scenario where the fire can come in and spread this quickly when the brush is not cleared. So just a horrible thing to see. This home here, still a lot of threat, but a lot of firefighters outside on the patio with hose lines. It looks like so far it's just been vegetation. There might have been a little outdoor barbecue area that burned as well, but the main structure, not at this point, but this one right here just getting overtaken with smoke right now. We might even, can't quite tell if there's any fire activity happening with that home there, obscured by the smoke, but really, really awful. And
Look
then,
at that.
you know, this home over here, that one's one of the worst, but this home over here we've been watching for a long time, this home in the corner here. So first the RV was burning, kind of spread to the tree, and then it looked like they were going to be okay, but now their neighbor's home is on fire. And you look at this, to the left of the shot here, it looks like the neighbor's garage goes, you know, almost right up to their property as well, and there's a tree in between. So this home is definitely not out of danger just yet, and I haven't seen any firefighters or anyone around this home right now. My pilot Mike just said that they're getting water from a source to the northeast. There may be a dam up there where they're dipping into. So we'll see if we can get eyes on that eventually.
So it's not too far. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and Des, really quick, I see you know, 40 King. One of their Hueys is there, and then they've actually got an A-Star that landed in a park, Blair Park. Can you see them? I'm just curious if they're bringing in any resources. I know sometimes in those more rural areas they'll do that. The Huey looks like it's flying, but 40 King looked like it was sitting down in Blair Park. So I don't know what operation they're kind of running in Blair Park, right off the 215, just to the east of it. So if they're having any kind of involvement in all of this at all. But as you see, look at that up to the left too. You see the flames kind of pushing up to that hillside as well. So We're finally starting to see some air resources on this. And I can't remember, Des, I think the Hueys can drop water in San Bernardino. Do you recall?
I believe that is the case. You know, very diverse range of air resources up here as well, and some of them with, you know, much larger capacities than others. The Blackhawk's kind of in the middle. We would love to see, you know, the Chinook or the air crane out here, the ones with the, you know, many thousands of gallons of capacity that are actually, you know, capable of even doing multiple drops. Their tanks are so large.
Oh, you know what? There's a fixed-wing DC-10 on the way,
Des. Okay, so they're probably going to put some Phos-Chek right up along this hillside here that I'm showing you. Maybe I can even just paint a line. I would anticipate right in this area is where we may see some of that be dropped once they make it to the scene. And my pilot Mike let me know that that Blackhawk, God, there's just so much to look at right
dropping
now.
Water right there.
I think yep, right over there. Okay, so on that home that was burning, that we've been watching burn now for a very long time, or at least maybe right around the perimeter of it, kind of a surgical operation, because they don't want to eject all of that burning material into the air and have it, you know, fanned by the flames to go burn another home. But maybe if they can kind of do it around the periphery of the home and you know, stop it from spreading to its neighbor right here.
And really quick, I don't know if in the control room, if we can come to my computer here, I want to show you a map of this area, you know, a Google map. So this is the home that we just were watching burn. This is the home right here. This is where that RV was burning. This is the other home that we saw burn. And then this is the home right here that is on fire and is burning very close to this home. That's the one where Desmond was talking about how the garage kind of butts right up against it. So, and then down here, this is that white home where we've watched them kind of do on the patio, where they've been putting water in on the patio there. So I just wanted to show people kind of what this area looks like from a satellite perspective, and even on the satellite view, you can see how tight these homes are right here and all the shrubs and brushes that are between them. Look at even on this map, there's that RV that burned.
Wow.
So yeah, so this has been here for a while.
And Mike, I'm wondering whether or not you've heard of any power issues. You know, we saw so many power lines kind of in the area there. Have we heard of any issues with electricity?
So I did hear them put out what's called a life alert, a life hazard alert for the firefighters, letting them know there are downed power lines in the area. They believe that the power was already all shut off, so they don't think that there is any real imminent risk to fire crews. I would expect that the neighborhood below the fire to the south of it is probably without power right now, at least until, you know, Edison can divert some of the circuits to keep them in power. But I would assume that this area is probably without power at this point.
And it's going to be a while, right? Even if the power is out to this area for Edison to bring in people and repair power poles and restring power lines, it's going to need the power to be rerouted a different way into this neighborhood here. And you can see again this fire burning right there, this home right in the middle of your screen. The entire home surrounded by brush. It's almost, and it's a little brush cave there. And look at this one here, the White House that we've been monitoring since the very beginning of this firefight. We're looking at this is called the Edgehill fire. It's been burning for about an hour now. And just how quickly this fire in an hour or so has destroyed so many homes in the area, burned very quickly to the point where many of the homes you can just see basically a little bit of a foundation of what's left there. Now, evacuation orders, those are still in effect right now, and we may see more as this firefight continues. There they are on the right side of your screen. The streets evacuated, well, the south side of and south of Ridge Line Drive. Desmond was showing us just how many homes kind of are on that street of Ridge Line Drive there. So far, they want everyone in that area to leave. The north side and north of Edgehill Road and west to and including Beverly Drive, that's also an area of concern, so evacuation orders are in place there. And an evacuation center is open at Marshall Elementary School with the address of 3288 North G Street. Again, a good place to congregate and wait and for further information, and also a good place for family members to gather as maybe they're heading home from work or heading home from, maybe they were away from home when this fire broke out and still have no idea what's going on now. So we're continuing to follow this fire break that's burning here in the San Bernardino area, in the Shandon Hills community of San Bernardino, a fire that So far, we do not know how it started, right, Mike? Is that the case?
No immediate cause at this point. Just it all happened pretty quick, and it burned for quite a while before we finally got some air resources overhead. Des, if we can go back to that neighborhood, one thing I kind of wanted to point out is, where all those folks were trying to do their own fire protection there, that area finally seems like, hopefully it's a little bit out of the woods here. I think we may starting to get to a point where, unfortunately there are homes burning, but it looks like a lot of the brush is finally maybe kind of getting a little bit more under control, which hopefully will make it the flames harder to spread. Not that it's good that structures are burning, but if that's the only thing that's burning, hopefully that slows the spread down. It's really the brush between the homes that causes it to bounce from home to home, although there are times, like we saw with that RV, where you have the embers catch RVs on fire as well. But unfortunately, these homes, just total losses. And, I wanted, Des, if you can pan just to the left a little bit, I was just looking at Google Maps. That was a home as well. I don't know if we saw that burning or if that was, no, not even that, but just to the bottom of your screen as well. So I was just checking Google Maps. That was a full home there that is just nothing now.
Yeah, this, I think, was one of the earlier homes that we saw burning, all the way down to the foundation. That might have been the second one that we saw. The first one that I saw was this one right up here, and then this one right down in here. So we have at least 5 or 6 homes that have gone up, and it looks like all of the ones that have caught fire are going to be a complete loss. I have not seen any hose lines on this, any firefighters in this driveway. This is right near where that RV was burning as well. That's right under the trees right there. You can see a couple of little residual flames. That has pretty much burned itself out completely. But this right here is Vista Drive, and I have not seen a single engine up on this section of Vista Drive. I think they've just been so busy on, these other ones, and then they were also up on Ridgeline. I mean, there's two. It's almost like 2 separate fires now at this point, the way this is burned. Everything right here, Vista and Circle Road, is really the epicenter of all of the destruction. But then you see up over here as well, all the way up here, where things are definitely looking a lot better. Hillhurst Drive, Ridgeline Drive, we saw a couple of pretty scary flames earlier, but firefighters came up to the backyards of all of these, and they were able to get everything snuffed out, despite the fact that, again, we see a lot of brush right up in this area, right up all in here. This is really, really bad to see. Extremely dangerous stuff. So if you had any hesitation about, clearing your brush, I know it's really hot out there. It's a lot of tough work, or you might have to pay somebody to do it. But you see what happens, or what certainly can happen, when you have the clearance versus when you don't.
Alrighty, Mike and Desmond on the phone right now. We have San Bernardino Fire Public Information Officer Eric Sherwin. Eric, are you with us? Hello, Eric? Eric, can you hear us?
I can.
Hey, Eric, thanks for joining us. This is Juan Fernandez, Mike Rogers, and Desmond Shaw up in SkyCal. We're watching this pretty aggressive firefight going on there in the San Bernardino area. Can you give us the very latest on what you have?
Yeah, so this fire started right around 2:40 this afternoon over in the 3300 block of Beverly Drive, which will be the southwest side of the fire as you're looking at it. It began in some dry annual grasses, started moving up slope, and when our first engines arrived, we already had structures immediately threatened. Flash forward to where we are right now, we have over 40 engines, hand crews, dozers, and aircraft, totaling over 200 personnel on scene.
Eric, you're telling us this fire started in some dry grasses. Do we know exactly what started it? Was it, what do we know?
Our investigators are on scene. However, they have not been able to get to origin just yet, so I don't have anything on cause at the moment.
Are you expecting more air resources to head in this direction? I know we've seen at least one of the water-dropping helicopters in the area already.
I would have to check with Incident Command and find out how many aircraft we do have assigned. I have seen a couple of different helicopters that are flying on this incident, but the total aircraft, I don't have that number.
And have you decided or talked about what's going to be happening as, we're getting close to sunset here over the next few hours? What's the plan?
So the plan obviously is always life safety. So to that point, we placed an evacuation order over this community. That is the northern boundary of that is Edgehill Drive. Ridgeline Drive is the northern side. Edgehill Drive is the southern border. It goes west of Beverly Drive, and the eastern boundary is Circle Drive. So that's encompassing a few dozen homes within that evac zone. And again, the roads here in Little Mountain are quite narrow to the point that if an engine company is coming up the road and a car is trying to come down, the engine has to back all the way down the hill, allow that vehicle to pass. So we're asking the residents to really respect that evacuation order, allow our engines to get in there and do work so that we can put this fire down and do our best to protect the community.
Hey, Eric, I guess you're on scene there, right? Because we can hear a lot of just noise behind you and whatnot. Are you on scene?
Yes, I'm here at the command post, so I apologize for the aircraft as they come overhead. The dip side is just west of our location.
Yeah, well, it's good to report to our viewers that, yes, indeed, the firefight is happening and that the resources are heading in that direction. Are you at all surprised at just how quickly the fire has spread? I mean, we've seen homes just within a half hour go from standing to absolutely nothing left.
Surprised? No. Unfortunately, the reality is we're dealing with tinder dry fuels. The temperature here at the command post when we got here at the start is 109, currently showing 107 degrees, and that's before you put on all the gear and start engaging the fire. So not surprised that we're seeing fire behavior of this magnitude at this incident.
And we've been talking a lot about brush clearance, Eric. You know, we're looking at from SkyCal, a lot of these homes do not have that 200 feet of clearance that most fire departments recommend for homes, and we're seeing what the outcome of that is.
Well, and that's, you speak to something important. It truly is a symbiotic relationship with the property owners creating that defensible space so that the firefighters can safely engage and do their best to protect your homes. Now that we do have some structures that unfortunately are burning, that further contributes. It's a lot more heat coming out of a structure than grass. So the exposure to the adjacent residences is an order of magnitude greater than just with the ground field burn.
Right, because drywall and furniture and other things burn a lot hotter than a grass fire, right?
Absolutely.
All right, we have Mike Rogers, Eric, on the desk too. He may have some questions for you, Mike.
Yeah, hi, Eric. Wanted to ask a quick question regarding the aircraft. We were overhead and surprised to see early on that there wasn't any aircraft on the fire. Do you know, was that a conscious choice to delay requesting an aircraft? Were they requested but unavailable? Just out of curiosity, in all of the counties that we cover, every time there's a fire, aircraft are almost immediately on scene. And I'm just curious if you have any idea what kind of the delay was in this fire.
So here in San Bernardino County, when we look at LA County or LA City or go down to Riverside that have their own aircraft assigned to them and have the ability to launch those aircraft on the initial dispatch. Here in San Bernardino County, we typically request aircraft and those orders are then filled. So you don't see as quick a turn, but those assets are absolutely asked for from our initial responding units. Got it.
And I know we've got the CAL FIRE Blackhawk overhead, and I forgive me if we've asked you this already. Do you know, are they requesting any additionals? And if you could also just talk about using aircraft are great when you're working fires in the brush. It's a different challenge when you've got homes on fire, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have, and Little Mountain is not, we have quite a fire history here on Little Mountain. So the residents are familiar with it. As we first came up, we already had residences that were self-evacuating even prior to an order. But we also know that we need to support aircraft. And to that point, we have a pre-designated dip site where we have assets go and they set up a dip tank, connect to a hydrant. That's over at Blair Park on the west side of the fire if you're looking from overhead. And that's the water source that these helicopters are using to get that water. And so we have a shorter turn time so we can get that water where it needs to be.
Got it. That makes sense.
And Eric, Juan Fernandez back here again. SkyCal is showing us some of the areas around where the fire is breaking out. We see a lot more homes there. Are any orders or any concern for those neighbors? Do they need to just be on standby? What are your thoughts on that?
So we do have an evacuation order that is in place. and that is Ridgeline is the northern boundary. That includes all the homes on the south side of Ridgeline Drive. It extends south to West Edgehill Drive, including all the homes on the north side of West Edgehill. The western delineator of the evacuation zone is Beverly Drive, and the eastern delineator is Circle Drive. So all the homes in that area are under an evacuation order.
And that's, do you know how many homes that would be? I mean, that's quite a bit of homes, isn't it?
It is. It's safe to say dozens. I haven't run the exact numbers yet through our Office of Emergency Services. They're really good at getting me home counts when I give them a box. I have not yet had a chance to chat with them.
And one of the big concerns we were talking about, you mentioned the just how narrow the roads are in that community right there. That's a danger, right?
It is. It's danger. It's for, especially when we're trying to concurrently fight a fire and effect evacuations. So again, to that point, we work very closely with San Bernardino Police Department on pre-planning responses into these neighborhoods for if and when fire does threaten these communities, we can get residents out safely and we can get in there and do our best to squash this fire.
Well, hopefully people are heeding that call to evacuate and to clear the roads so that fire crews can make their way in and out. I think Mike Rogers has another question for you, Eric.
Yeah, Eric, I just wanted to point out, I know we were talking about how you've got the Blackhawk pulling out a little mountain base in there, but Desmond Shaw and SkyCal was just showing us a setup in a park, a Blair Park, I believe that is, off the 215 freeway. And it looks like that's one of the situations where they've got the big pool set up where they've got a fire hose running and that's where the helicopter dips out of. That's something you guys set up, correct?
Yes. So if you see, you've seen the CAL FIRE helicopter, you've seen the Firehawk,
right?
And then you also see the black and white helicopter, and that's San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. So when they launch out, and that aircraft is staffed with 2 deputies and 2 county firefighter paramedics. So when they go out for fire suppression, they will drive a tank out. And like we said, for Little Mountain, they know Blair Park is the place to go, deploy that tank. They carry the hose lines that hook up to a hydrant so we don't have to pull any engine companies off. They can remain focused on perimeter control or structure defense while those firefighters set up for aerial fire suppression.
And that's exactly what we're looking at there, Eric. We see the pool, we see the fire line. It's attached to a hydrant, and it is just pouring water into this. It's probably a very large pool.
Yeah.
It looks like from the chopper doesn't look that big, but it's enough to basically load up the helicopter and do a water drop, right?
Yes, so that tank that flex pool holds 3,000 gallons of water.
Wow, okay.
So it has soft sides so that bucket can't potentially, or if we're using a siphon for our tank ships, so they can't get hung up on the side. So you'll actually see the side of that tank collapse if a bucket drags through it.
Got it. And Eric, I just had one other quick question. Listening to some of the radio traffic, at one point there was nobody in staging. They were needing a bunch of additional engines. I know I heard mutual aid from Riverside County. Are you guys getting aid from LA County as well?
I have not. Honestly, I haven't looked at the tablet for quite a while now.
Got it.
But I can go back there and look, but then you have to deal with the noise of the aircraft flying overhead. I can tell you, we do have Riverside City has contributed 5 engines. CAL FIRE has a very robust response here, and then all our cooperators here within San Bernardino County as well have been assisting as needed.
And Eric, we're seeing a lot of black, thick smoke. How dangerous and how much of a concern is that for not only fire crews, but people in the area?
Yes, so we have to consider air quality. When we come out for a vegetation fire, typically we're dressed in less heavy-duty personal protective equipment so that we can move quickly through the brush. When we do get structures or vehicles that are involved, that's traditionally when we're on our breathing apparatus that can ensure clean air and we're not inhaling things that could be hazardous to ourselves. So that's something that each engine company is taking into account when they choose to engage on this incident, what equipment they should be wearing. And then for residents as well, that's another reason to heed the evacuation order. We're looking at dozens of residents that have just walked out of the area and are down here on the south side of the incident watching us do the best we can to save their homes.
And it's tough. It's tough. We've been watching this firefight since the get-go, Eric, and it's tough to see these homes go up in flames. Nice properties, expansive properties with some nice real estate around it, and within a 30-minute time span, it's all wiped out.
It just goes to show how unforgiving fire can be.
All righty, Eric Sherwin with the San Bernardino Fire Department, we thank you so much for your time with us and giving us some really great information, and also reminding our viewers the importance not only of brush clearance, but also to be prepared. This is now being called the Edgehill fire, burning in the Shandon Hills area. Eric Sherman telling us it started right around 2:40 this afternoon in some dry grasses on the scene there that quickly spread. They had 40 engines on it, dozens of fire crews, and it looks like, Mike, for now, it looks like right now the fire is basically concentrated on several homes, right?
Yeah, and homes always will burn longer than brush, right? So they can get the brush put out. And unfortunately, now we're watching these homes just burn to the ground. Firefighters doing what they can. Now we've got some water dropping helicopters, and Eric, from San Bernardino Fire, explaining to us a little bit about the delay. LA County, LA City, Orange County all have dedicated fire helicopters for their fire department. Apparently not the case in San Bernardino, but you see that water drop.
That was a good drop.
That was a really good drop here. So hopefully, what's happening right now is the home is beyond saving.
Right.
But if they can prevent it from spreading to those trees and spread it from the next door homes, that's what they're trying to do. And here we do a second drop. That's it looks like an A-Star that's dropping water on that one, and the other one was that Huey that came in. So they're dipping out of that park over there with that pool that we showed you. There's an engine coming into the cul-de-sac here, which is the first time we've seen an engine be able to get back into that cul-de-sac with some firefighters, and hopefully they're running some hand lines as well. There's that motorhome and that car that are still burning.
Yeah.
And really quickly, Juan, I want to show you, and we've got some sound that's going to come with this tape that we'll look at here. And I want to show you have you listened to how loud these fires burn when they're burning?
Yeah, we could hear it on Eric's phone call, just how loud it was behind
Right,
it.
and take a look at this tape and listen to the flames here.
All right.
Hey, get out of there! Go! Go, 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 go! Go!
And right at the beginning there, you could just hear that roar of the flames as it tears through, and that's that woman yelling for him to get out. This is some other video from earlier as well, where you can see those homes burning, and unfortunately, you see all those neighbors scrambling. There's San Bernardino PD trying to get people out as well. So really doing the best they can, but when you're up against that wall of flames, like you saw at the beginning there, that makes it difficult.
And oftentimes we talk about how fire creates its own weather patterns as well. At the ground, things get a little bit more uncertain, which is why that lady was telling that guy to just throw everything in the car and go, go, go. And let's hope that people are heeding the call. Eric was telling us that a lot of people have been gathering to the south side of this firefight to watch these firefighters at work. But look at that video you're seeing there on the right side of your screen. This is at ground level. You can see there's a lot of immediacy, there's a lot of urgency in these fire crews on the ground, trying to do the best they can. As you mentioned, Mike, the houses that have burned, there's nothing else they could do, but it's about preventing the spread. And on the left side of your screen, that's that live shot there from Desmond, picking up some water from that pool that they set up in that nearby park to hit the flames as best they can. We were talking about the difference, Mike, between the Huey and the other helicopter. One has more capacity than the other, right?
Right, and so what they're doing with, I know at least with the A-Star, I can't tell. Okay, so there's the Huey there's the A-Star. Des, are there buckets on both of them, or is the Huey sucking it up into the belly? Looks like the Huey's sucking it up into the belly. So that'll give that one a little bit more capacity than the bucket on the A-Star, right?
Yeah, definitely. What my pilot Mike was saying, they call a Bambi bucket. That may be about 275 pounds is what they're saying around that capacity for that bucket. This is going to be considerably more than this. Probably, I would think, around 1,000 gallons or so. We're still not seeing the highest capacity water dropping helicopters like the Chinook and the Erickson air crane. I believe that we heard the Chinook earlier on a different fire in LA County, but yep. So, but now they're sucking this up, and you can see just how quick of a turnaround here it is.
Yeah.
I mean, he only had to dip in for about 20 seconds or so to do that, and we'll see if they go back to that home where they were dropping directly onto that home. It almost looked like they were doing it in a way, maybe they were gaining a little bit of altitude just as they came to maybe it may have something to do with some of that water evaporating by the time that it hits the ground, because again, they don't want to inject a lot of material into the air, which is part of the reason why we don't typically see a lot of water drops directly on homes. But they seem to be very, very determined to knock this one out before it catches this neighboring home on fire. This home has been under so much threat. First by that RV and the tree that was on fire that's basically burned itself out. It's the neighboring home, which burned all the way down to the foundation, and now the other neighboring home as well. So it's been extremely stressful, I'm sure, if the homeowners are watching here at the end of Vista Drive, at the end of this cul-de-sac. But so far, so good. We haven't seen any flames on that property just yet, but their neighbors definitely not as lucky. In fact, every home surrounding this home has burned now. This was one of the very first ones that we saw here just above them, and now just to the east of them and to the south on the cul-de-sac. All of their neighbors have burned to the ground. It's just so awful.
And it was so impressive to see that helicopter come into that park, Desmond, and scoop up the water from that pool. And as Eric Sherwin from San Bernardino Fire was telling us, those pools have soft edges, so if that hose kind of drags along the pool, that side collapses and lets the helicopter continue moving so it could do its water drop and come back and do its thing. And we're watching it right there. Here's another water drop about to happen right there, and they're doing it right above the fire there. And you can see when the water hits the fire, it creates its own steam as well, Mike. And yet still, as Eric was telling us, you know, San Bernardino County Fire, that's right. He was telling us, you know, furniture, drywall, insulation, all that burns a lot hotter than brush, than dry grasses. So that's why you see these fires just a little bit more stubborn once they hit these homes here. And again, this fire burning, the one just to the left of it, untouched for now, and let's hope that it stays that way. And Mike, if you're looking at this shot there from Desmond, it looks like the fire is burning in 3 spots right now, right?
Yeah, all the way around it. And you know, one of the things that's also happening when they're pouring that water on it from the helicopter is these homes are now so compromised, their structure is so compromised that there's likely a lot of collapse that is happening, which I'm sure is also pushing out its own set of smoke, which is, you know, what they have to balance is, because if they don't want embers to shoot up out of that if these homes are starting to collapse. And unfortunately, that one right there is totally burning. But again, we're in a situation, and it's not good, obviously, for any of these homeowners, but it appears, and Des, tell me if I'm wrong, it appears that all that is left is burning is homes, right? I don't see any active brush that is still on fire that would then spread this to any more homes, hopefully.
That is the case. It's really centered around these 3 homes that are burning right now. There's not a lot of brush left between them. Everything that, you know, could combust basically has. I also wanted to point out this home right here, which I can't tell if it was under construction or what, but we had seen fire under the eaves of this home, and it was looking like it was going to go as well. But the firefighters jumped on this one, and you can look at the palm tree there and how much the wind is kicking up. Basically blowing, you know, the flames towards this home, but they've done a really good job of saving this one. There was definitely fire under the eaves. You see some of the foam that they used to douse the flames, and we're not seeing any flames. So hopefully that one is going to be saved. But look at just a couple of feet away here, this other home right here. So you see they're down there on the ground as well as on the roof. Actively getting some water on it, trying to prevent it from creeping to the east. A big tree right there in between both of those homes as well. So it's really just this small area right off of Vista Drive and Circle Road that is really the epicenter of destruction. I think, and El Camino Road, where we saw a couple of the homes, Hillhurst Drive, where the fire was earlier, came dangerously close to this one as well. But, you know, we were talking about brush clearance, and that may have done the trick to save this one. Still, you know, a lot of flame nearby, but we haven't seen any flame creeping right up to that home. And then back here at the very back was pretty scary for a bit off of Hillhurst Drive and Ridgeline Road, but, you know, looking really good now. Up here, just a little bit of a mop-up operation there. No active flame, came very, very close to all of these homes. But, you know, San Bernardino Fire, they're going to be here throughout the night, making sure that nothing sparks up to make sure that these homes, you know, continue to be standing.
And that's a concern, Desmond. I'm kind of surprised that house that we were watching where you saw the flames underneath the eaves, right? And it looked like, uh-oh, this one is going to get hit next. And it seems like it's been saved. The concern is, again, overnight, we've seen it happen time and time again where it looks like the fire is out. There's still fire burning underneath some, let's say, pine needles or brush, and then all of a sudden in the evening it flares up again. So they're going to be watching this overnight. It's a big concern again for firefighters, people in the community. It's still windy out there. Marina Jurica telling us earlier this afternoon that we're not going to see relief till maybe midweek. Temperatures there at the peak of the firefight were 109 degrees, so that's very hot, Mike. It's still windy, and again, the winds aren't helping either.
Yeah, and you know, we are starting to, I'm listening to the radio traffic, starting to come into a down phase of this, which is the good news. You know, we're here in Studio City. We have a Chinook that is part of the quick response team out of Van Nuys Airport, and their flight path is right over the top of us. So I just heard them flying over, looked at the radar they are, and they're headed out east. But then I just heard the San Bernardino Fire Incident Commander say you can cancel the aircraft from LA and from Ventura. So it appears that the Chinook that just flew over us was at least headed that way. I'll watch and see if they turn around, but it sounded like the incident commander said you can go ahead and cancel those two. And again, I think it's because we're in that position where they've got 3 of their own aircraft. They've got an Intel fixed wing, it looks like, up at 10,000 feet now that I'm looking at, which is going to have them get a better kind of overview eye on it. But we are looking at a situation where we are talking about homes right now that are just burning.
Yeah, the good news is, Mike, you're saying this is called a downgrade. What did you call it? A down?
Yeah, they're just starting to kind of to downward slope this.
down
So you know,
slope,
so
okay.
we're not in a situation where we were earlier, where they were so desperately begging for resources. You know, I mean, to ask aircraft out of Ventura County, that's a flight from Ventura County to where we're at in the northern end of the city of San Bernardino. So that's a trek. So they've got the Intel ship overhead. That's going to give them kind of a better bird's eye view of how many acres have burned, you know, what kind of their situation is right now. And then you've got the Huey and the A-Star that are there fighting it as well, along with the CAL FIRE Blackhawk that is still on scene too. So there is a Chinook that looks like it's lighting up out of Chino Airport. We'll see if they bring that still. But the LA County Chinook, I don't think is supposed to be continuing. We'll see if they turn around soon too.
Yeah, Mike, and the good news is, I don't know if it's what we're looking at here, maybe the smoke is a little lighter, but we are starting to see more of those ground crews with the hoses hitting those fires right there. All right, if you're just joining us, all right, we're continuing to monitor this brush fire burning here in the San Bernardino area. And in just a few moments here, we're going to be welcoming in our KCAL News at 5 viewers as well. That's over on Channel 2. In the meantime, you can still see the homes burning in the San Bernardino area. This is in the Shandon Hills community where you can see the fire burning. Several homes destroyed in this fire. One that started right around 3-ish, Mike?
2:38 was the start time, yeah.
Okay,
that was the initial dispatch time.
So just before 3 o'clock, and this fire again destroying so many homes here. The firefight now on the ground and in the air, doing the very best they can to avoid this fire from spreading to the nearby communities there. As I mentioned, Marina Jurica telling us the conditions out there are not going to get any better till perhaps Wednesday. And we have our Desmond Shaw up in SkyCal. Desmond, you are showing us basically we have 2 hoses on what's left of this home here, right?
Yes, and you can see all of a sudden, a lot of firefighters have made it here to the end of Vista Drive at the end of this cul-de-sac. So we're starting to get some water, not just from the air, but from the ground as well. Some high pressure hose lines on that one. I'm hoping that we're going to see firefighters be able to hold the line at 5 or 6 homes. I know there's at least 5 that have gone for sure. It might be 6, but you know, we are starting to see them finally getting a handle on all of the destruction here. This very pernicious fire. This one right here, frankly, I mean, there's definitely still some damage to this home, as you see there, like a cascade of water coming down from the Huey right there. But I mean, it looks like, you know, it's going to be salvageable. At least it was not looking that way about 20 or 30 minutes ago. So, you know, we'll take obviously whatever good news we can get on this situation. This one here was also under very, very serious threat, but starting to breathe a little bit easier. We're seeing just a couple of homes here. This one still is almost now completely burned itself out. And we've got one or two that are still actively burning. This is the most destructive one right here, and the issue is just trying to prevent. So this is what we were worried about, the garage right here, and now you see right up against this neighboring property. So as they start to hose directly into the garage, and hopefully they'll hold the line here, guys.
And you got to say, oh, sorry, go ahead, guys.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're getting ready to start the simulcast. Good evening, everybody. I'm Pat Harvey. I'm joining Juan Fernandez. And, all right, good evening. We have breaking news on KCAL News at 5 o'clock. We are now simulcasting on CBS Los Angeles on Channel 2 and here on KCAL News on Channel 9. I'm here with Juan Fernandez and Mike Rogers and Desmond Shaw overhead. We're talking about that brush fire burning at least 4 homes. I believe Desmond said at least 6 maybe in San Bernardino.
And you can see how intense the firefight is there, Pat. The fire is in the Shandon Hills area of San Bernardino. It started in the 3300 block of Beverly Drive near West Edgehill Road in what a fire official was telling us was in some dry grasses. Hello, everyone. I'm Juan Fernandez.
And I'm Pat Harvey. We have live team coverage for you now. Let's begin with Desmond Shaw. He's got the overhead view from SkyCal. And Des, how is this looking compared to earlier this afternoon?
We're definitely off to a better start for the 5 o'clock hour than we were the 4 o'clock hour, no doubt about it. I'm hoping that this is going to be the extent of the destruction. Still very tragic, 5, possibly 6 homes that have burned, most of them all the way down to the foundation. This was a really big, beautiful home with some fantastic views off of El Camino Road that is no more. That was one of the first 2 homes that we saw that were burning by the time that we got to the scene. And then there was a home down here as well. This one, what was here was the second home that we saw burning on Vista Drive. This one's been burning for quite some time. A home here in the center of the shot that miraculously, fingers crossed, it looks like the fire department will be able to salvage. There had been some flames under the eaves and was beginning to infiltrate that home. The fire crews swarmed it with the hose lines and were able to get that knocked down. There was a really scary situation with this one down here, this multi-level or a multi-dwelling, I should say. It looks like possibly 3 or 4 homes here, and there was a huge family that came out here that were scrambling around. They're still down here right now. They had hose lines and even fire extinguishers, a couple of pickaxes coming down, and the flames came right down into this area here. You can see now they're kind of trying to dig a fire line and keep everything cool with some gardening hoses. So hopefully the threat is over for them as well, but that was quite a scene watching at least a dozen people that looked like maybe friends and family on this property that came and scrambled, basically doing the work for themselves, and hopefully they were able to save their home. But this is not the entire extent of the fire as I widen out and show you, and let's put up the map tracker to show you Vista Road and Circle Road, Vista Drive and Circle Road has been kind of the epicenter of all of this destruction, as well as El Camino Road and Hillhurst Drive, where we saw some homes burning. But up here as well, off of Ridgeline Drive, we had some pretty scary flames as well. It looked like the fire jumped this road and was kind of creeping along the hillside. But a lot of these homes had really good brush clearance, and we haven't seen any homes on this ridge line burn. And now the fire crews are doing a very good job of holding the line there. So we're definitely making some progress, but it's definitely going to be a tragic loss of homes. Fortunately, we have not heard of loss of life or any injuries on this one, but it happened really, really fast today in the hills of San Bernardino with this destructive fire. Pat, Juan, and Mike.
Well, you know what, Desmond? Oh, that's a wonderful drop right there.
Yeah.
Part of the reason, unfortunately, they were a little slow in getting some resources there in terms of choppers, which was, would you say that was sort of unusual since we don't have a lot of brush fires or big brush fires burning in the area?
It took a while.
Des?
It did take some time. Yeah, it took some time they were getting some from CAL FIRE, we believe, coming from the Chino area. We had the fire official on the line earlier saying that it definitely took them some time, that they were not able to scramble the choppers as quickly as we've seen them, at LA and Orange County. I mean, a lot of times the fire's only burning for 5 or 10 minutes, and they already have, several water-dropping helicopters there. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And because the fire spread, I'm showing you this area here because when we were watching homes burn to the south off of Vista Drive back in this area, we saw a lot of firefighters. They were spread thin really early, I think, and they were really determined to stop the flames that were burning in this area. And because they had their hands full with that hillside and all the brush and that uphill topography, it seems that maybe they had not had the resources or were not able to get some of those engine companies up in here quickly enough onto these winding roads to be able to prevent the fire from spreading. But now they are here, and they've definitely actively saved 3, 4, maybe 5 homes. But like I said, 5, possibly 6. Unfortunately, they are burning to the ground.
And you know, Pat, the big problem was brush clearance. We've been watching these homes, the brush that basically would just kiss the roof lines of these homes being so close, and that is what I think fueled a lot of this fire this afternoon.
And a lot of trees. And as Desmond just mentioned, the homes that did have brush clearance, well, fortunately,
fared a little better, right?
Yeah, they did a little better than the ones, unfortunately, who were lost. But it's just amazing, again, to see just how quickly, once they jumped on this, they really got to it. I believe about at least 200 fire personnel are out there now.
Yeah, 200 fire personnel, and we are just getting an update. So this is not a CAL FIRE incident, but they are doing the mapping for it, and they've mapped it at 100 acres. So that's the most significant update we've heard. Originally, you know, San Bernardino County Fire had said 5 acres. Clearly, it was a lot larger than that. And now that we've got that, they call it an intel plane, which kind of does better mapping for it, and they're mapping it about 100 acres now.
Well, you know, the other thing that's we're glad to see this happening now, because I was listening to you guys all afternoon, and I heard you talk about, and Marina talk about the winds, and the sundowner winds are expected, you know, as soon as darkness falls, and that's not good when you've got triple-digit heat and low humidity.
Yeah, that was when we were talking to Eric from the fire department. He was telling us how quickly this thing just really took off. And even when we were overhead, that home where they were on the balcony there putting water off of the balcony, we saw a piece of brush just shoot up instantly and brush up right against that home. And he did say that one of their big challenges here was not having brush clearance. It made it very difficult for them to try to stop it, and then it just bounced from home to home to home. You know, when we got overhead, all of that hillside had already burned. That was already burned and done, and we were dealing with what's in the neighborhood here. And then you had that RV that caught fire, and you know, there's that one house right there to the left of Desmond's screen that he's actually coming in on with the solar panels on the roof. Those people in that home have somehow gotten incredibly lucky. Houses on both sides of it completely destroyed, an RV burned right in front of it under a tree, and somehow that home managed to escape any kind of serious damage, a lot of smoke, I'm sure, but certainly faring better than the neighbors, all 3 of them on each side, that have totally lost their homes.
Did the panels have anything to do with that?
I don't think so. I think they just, I mean, and even that doesn't have great brush clearance. I mean, I think they just got incredibly lucky with the way that the winds maybe were blowing a little bit, or the way firefighters were able to get in there. But you have homes on all sides of it that were completely destroyed. The RV and a car in front of the home burned and caught the tree on fire, and somehow they were okay.
Yeah. And we know embers travel, so we know they could very easily have hit this home. But as Mike was saying, they got very, very lucky, Pat.
And these are, from what I understand, older Spanish-style homes, a lot of them. Beautiful, but then again, when it comes to something like this, look at that. Oh, that's so sad to see there. They don't do very well at all because of, obviously, their older homes. No wood shake roofs necessarily, but at the same time, just the materials, and as you say, with no brush clearance or very little, and you're surrounded by trees, then that's what happened. And you did mention the winds that were blowing embers, and that's certainly a major concern anytime we have brush fires like that and the winds are blowing. You know, you look and you go, how can one home catch fire and the one right next to it
doesn't?
Yeah.
And building specifications too for these older Spanish homes too, Pat, are not up to code as they are today. And something that I found very interesting from Eric Sherwin with San Bernardino Fire was how the home, anything inside the home, couches, insulation, drywall, burns a lot hotter and more intense than, let's say, brush. So when you see them do a water drop in, it doesn't necessarily extinguish the flames right away. It's just because that material burns at such a higher degree, which is, of course, if there's a danger of collapse, it's a problem for firefighters.
Did we hear talk about the difficulty in the firefighters actually dropping water on a home itself?
Right, and that's, you know,
we asked that question.
Yeah, we talked to Eric about that a little bit, and it presents a much different challenge because You know, when you're burning brush, they can come and they can do these kind of flybys and cover a lot of ground with that water drop. But when you're doing homes, you've got firefighters everywhere. You've got to make sure that there's nobody underneath, because that will absolutely injure a firefighter. And then we're looking at these homes that are so deteriorated now because of the fire, they start collapsing. And actually, even without, look at that, is starting. You see some pieces of wood falling, even without pouring, you know, all that water from a helicopter on it. So there are considerations that they have to make when they're going to do water drops on a structure. And certainly the concern for personnel down below is primary. Now the good news though is there's no injuries so far. You know, it's always concerning when these fires break out this quickly. If people had time to get out and if people had time to evacuate, and it appears in this situation they did. One of my colleagues on the desk, Angelina, she spoke with the evacuation center, and they said that there are people showing up to Marshall Elementary School where this evacuation center is set up. So hopefully they're getting the resources that they need.
Yeah, 3288 North G Street is where Marshall Elementary School is located, a great place to meet with family members and gather until the firefight is over.
And hopefully, I don't know, maybe they would have some kind of emergency services like cots,
the Red
whatever,
Cross,
set
yeah.
up. Yeah, the Red Cross at that particular center, because some of these folks, well, they won't have home to go back to, and if they have nowhere else to go, that we've seen that, where people could possibly be at shelters like that, homemade shelters for quite some time. Wow, Desmond, looking at, oh wow, this picture here on the right side of the screen. This is obviously when it started earlier. Des?
Yeah, I'm not able to see that up here in the chopper, but I know, you know, this home, we were watching this home for a long time, and unfortunately this is, was one of the ones where firefighters were spread so thin early on, it seems like they just had not scrambled enough engines, and long before the water dropping helicopters got here and we watched the flames, it all came from this property right here. It just kind of crept right down the hillside and jumped from palm tree to brush and right up to the gates, and was made its way right up here through the south side of the home and inside, and now you can see there's basically nothing left. It's just so sad to come here and watch a home standing 1 minute, and 10 minutes later you just know what's going to happen. And the only really good news we got was with this home right here, which definitely suffered some damage, but looks like it's still standing and hopefully didn't do too much damage inside. And this home was under very serious threat, and now look, nothing. Even with, there's still, well, the brush burned right up to the property there, but and it tried to get on that patio, but we had a slew of firefighters out here with hose lines, and now we don't see any active smoke or flame at all. This home right here was also in a pretty scary situation, so we may hopefully be at the end as far as how many homes we're going to see burn. And like Mike was saying, this is the biggest miracle of all, because everything around it burned, from the brush to the neighbor up on the hillside to the folks just below on the RV right in front of their cul-de-sac, and their neighbor's home also burning to the ground. But we all covered the Woolsey fire and remember seeing so many instances where you had an entire street leveled, and then that one home that didn't have a lick of damage to it. And it's just one of the more amazing things. It's just so hard to understand when we're covering these fires, but hopefully they're going to be out of the woods. These folks up here, right here, also so scary. But for 5 or 6 homeowners, the worst kind of news, but at least, like we're saying, we're not talking about any loss of life. Really the only silver lining that we have here today in San Bernardino.
And it looks like things are getting a little better. It seems like we're seeing a little bit more white smoke, a little wispier. So perhaps the more intense fire has calmed down a little bit, Des?
Sorry, we're doing a little bit of housekeeping. Des needs to go get fuel.
Okay.
So
refuel.
I'm listening to him communicate with our desk there. So we're going to lose him for a second while he goes down to the San Bernardino airport to get some fuel as we continue to talk about this fire. Again, 100 acres burning right now. This is the Edgehill fire burning in the San Bernardino area, city of San Bernardino still, you guys. And I wanted to run through some other video. And Pat, you were looking at that video a second ago, and you see these big flames behind me here, just really intense from those homes burning. But the video that we were looking at on the ground, I'm going to play that for you here in a second, and I want you to listen to the fire. You can actually hear the fire roaring in this video.
Hey, get out of there! Go! Go, 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 go! Go!
Yeah, you hear the woman saying, go, 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 and luckily that's what he did, and that's what saved, you know, a lot of injuries from happening here. And this is another angle of that video as well, and you can see that towering wall of flames. I mean, she's on the ground level, and you can see how tall those flames are as they shoot up into the sky. And unfortunately, this is some more video from SkyCal that we were looking at, and I want to show you this home right here on the right. That's the one we were just talking about, where Des was just showing, and look how close those flames got right to that balcony of that home. This is one of a few homes that were saved here moments after this, and you can see them on the patio there. There's the fire department bringing in hose lines, and they were actually able to fight back those flames. But just remarkable that they were able to do so, considering how close the fire was to the homes there. We'll show you the next piece of video here, excuse me, as well. And unfortunately, these homes were not as lucky. And that home on the right there, that's that Spanish-style home that we've been talking about that unfortunately we watched. And at first, it was this situation here where you see it coming into the brush up against the patio there. And Pat, as you pointed out, these are tile roofs, not wood roofs, which did help them for a while because we saw some of these palm fronds, and you can see the tree on the far to the left there burn and come onto the roof. Now, if you had wood roofs, that would have gone up probably a lot quicker. These tile roofs helped them a little bit, but unfortunately not enough. We saw the fire kind of creep into a window there and take off. And then on the left side of that home was on fire when we got there. And, you know, we actually found this fire on the way to a different story. We were going to Fontana, and Des said, hey, it looks like there's a fire out there. We diverted him and came over the hillside and unfortunately saw these homes on fire. We'll show you one more piece of tape here. This is that home after the firefighters got there, and you can see them on the patio there doing their work with their hand lines to put them down. And you guys, we've had firefighters from all over the area. You know, you heard Eric there say he was going to check and see if LA County was assisting as well. We know that at least they requested that Chinook. I did just check, and it did turn around and go back to Van Nuys Airport, so it doesn't look like they're going to need that anymore. But a lot of firefighters, Riverside City Fire, San Bernardino County Fire, agencies from all over San Bernardino coming out to help fight this one. And unfortunately, they got a little bit of a late jump with the aircraft there. We asked Eric about that. He tells us that San Bernardino is one of the very few agencies, if I can think of any others, that the fire department doesn't have their own firefighting helicopters. And that seems to have made a big difference here. You know, LA County, LA City, as soon as somebody calls 911 and says there's a brush fire, the aircraft, the helicopters, get dispatched at the same time a fire engine does. So the same time a fire engine's leaving the station, a helicopter's coming in the air. That was not the case out here in San Bernardino. They have to put in an official request with CAL FIRE, who then has to fill the request and get the helicopter out there, and that took a significant amount of time today.
Yeah, it still takes a while to get resources moved from one place to the other.
Right.
All right, Mike, thank you. Well, we know weather, Pat, had a lot to play with this fire here, so we want to check in on the conditions impacting the firefight.
And it may still happen.
Yeah.
Meteorologist Marina Jerica is here with the extreme heat in our next weather, and we hear those sundowner winds are expected, Marina.
And that's the problem, Pat and Juan, is that this is not just a problem for right now. It's a problem that will continue until we get a little relief by midweek, when that high pressure dome finally starts to shake things up a bit and it moves, and we can finally get a little bit of relief from all of these elements. So this fire has just had all of the elements playing to its benefit, unfortunately. We've got wind gusts currently right now in that San Bernardino area. They've been pretty much sustained at about 20 to 25 miles per hour and consistent over the last couple of hours, coming out of the south-southwest, that you can see. And that's what was driving it upslope and moving up through those hills. And that will continue throughout the evening. This is prime time, right, when we get our hottest temperatures. It was 109 in that area just throughout pretty much the last couple of hours. It has cooled down to about 108 now. We're at 45 at the dew point. So what does that mean? 55 is dry. So we are at 45. So the dew points are very dry. The humidity levels are very, very low. And that has been pretty consistent here throughout really the last 3 or 4 days. And that will continue at least through tomorrow night, if not into a little bit of Wednesday. And you can see that at San Bernardino, 108. It was our top spot yesterday too at 106. So all of our valley locations, all of the Inland Empire, these areas are hot spots for these fires to start, just because we had such a very wet winter, a wet spring, all the way until late April, May. There's a lot of brush. There's a lot of fuel for these fires to start. And of course, we also have the heat warnings that continue through tomorrow night. So that excessive heat warning all the way through 108, including the entire Inland Empire area, is through tomorrow night. So we are not going to really be in the clear with relief until mid-Wednesday, about Wednesday midday into the afternoon, when that high pressure starts to move up towards the west. And the heat advisory pretty much through the rest of our viewing area is for temperatures up to 105 through tomorrow as well. It's really only our coastal areas. And Juan, I know you were talking about this with me a little bit earlier, but we create our own weather when fires start to happen. So when vegetation or houses burn, whatever it is that's burning, huge amounts of heat are released. And this heat, that is the air that's right near the ground, rises up, just like in a high pressure situation, the dome situation that we're in right now. That heat rises up just like a hot air balloon, because hot air is less dense than that cool air. So then that cooler air just comes rushing in to fill in that void left by that rising air. And this is how wildfires create their own wind patterns. And that's why we see these situations, unfortunately, get to critical level very quickly. And that's what we saw out there today. And so as we move forward, unfortunately, really the next 48 hours are going to continue to be critical. And so we will be looking at this through, I said, about Wednesday midday. But then we are going to track that high pressure breaking up. And then we'll start to see things get a little bit better, so a little bit cooler. And then again, high pressure takes over next weekend. So this is something that's not going to really change, at least for the next couple of months. So we just need to be cognizant of that. And like you said, preparation is key, Juan. And we really could see these houses just getting rid of that brush, and that would have made a big difference.
That would have been a big, big, big issue. All right, next 48 hours are going to be key, Pat.
No question about that.
Yes.
And we're going to go back to our fire coverage and to get an update on exactly what's been happening. Well, we have Mike Rogers at the desk, but we understand that we have Eric Sherwin on the phone with us now. He's a PIO for San Bernardino Fire. Eric, it's Pat Harvey, Juan Fernandez, and Mike Rogers in the studio. May I call you Eric? Eric Sherwin? Okay, we don't have Eric Sherwin right now, and we will try to get him as soon as possible. But we've been talking about this fire and the updates that we've had. At least, 100 acres burned, at least 6 homes destroyed. Fortunately, no injuries, and that has been pretty remarkable when you look at the number of homes that have burned to the ground, that have been destroyed. That's the good news, and that it's certainly a bit more under control than it was earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, we were watching from Desmond's picture there right before he had to leave to go get some fuel, that it looked like it was, you know, and I hate to say just homes that were left burning, which is at least good, because the brush is what is catching these homes. The brush spreads the fire, goes from homes to home. And I'm going to show you guys that video where you can hear the fire again. But something that one of us, our assistant news director, actually just noticed is that the man is actually carrying a turkey as he is trying to evacuate. And it kind of goes to show you what we deal with in kind of these more rural communities. Go ahead and take a look at the video again. Yeah, I thought it was one. You said I thought it was a backpack. I thought he was just carrying something as well. It wasn't until somebody pointed it out that he's carrying a turkey out of there as well, which is kind of bizarre. And you guys, I want to come to my computer here because I want to show you, this is the area that we're talking about here. So the home right here, this is the home that the solar panels were on the roof. That is the home that did not burn, right? This home unfortunately burned. This home burned. That's that Spanish-style roof one. Looked like this one burned as well. This one burned. So you have a lot of these homes, and then this is that white home that we saw where the fire was kind of coming up right against the patio there as well. So we know of at least 4. I think there is a 5th one somewhere in here, and it wasn't this one. It may be one of these over here. So we'll have to look when Desmond comes back up. But those were the homes that were burning. And then, you know, on the whole other side of it, and I'll come back over here and show you, this ridge back here was also burning. So the fire actually made a lot of ground. You know, we talk about the homes because that's where those burned, but it actually kind of started in this area here and then burned down into the neighborhood, but then made its way back over a jumped this road, and this whole hillside is now burned. That's when we got the water dropping helicopters, and thankfully they were able to save the homes that are up in that area. But that got really close there for a second when that fire kind of came up the hill here, because they were definitely concerned to get those homes. But you look even on the Google map here, you can see the brush clearance, and we've talked about that so much. Even up here, look at, you can see, and this may be because it's just unfinished and they're going to put more homes here, but the fire burned all the way up right here and then just stopped because of this natural break that you have. right? And even on this side, you've got a lot of good clearance here, a lot of good break, and that really helped firefighters out. And then you look down at the other area where we've seen the homes that are burning, and unfortunately, you just don't have that same situation here where you have all of this such heavily brushed, lots of trees, lots of homes that are close to each other. And again, unfortunately, that didn't do a whole lot for them. Now, this is the area right here, if you guys remember, where we saw those families coming out that were trying to fight the fire on their own, and they were up in this hillside trying to put that fire out. And you know, it's not what fire crews want, but hey, their homes didn't burn.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know, that's a natural instinct to do that, right?
Yeah, and we'll show you some more video here too of just the smoke plume, and that's what we were talking about with Desmond as well. Is this what is burning? Is this really thick black toxic smoke? Anytime you see that, and it shot up way into the sky. And again, that's how we saw it. We saw it over the hill. The smoke coming from Fontana is where we were. SkyCal was on a different story, and they saw the smoke and came over. And then eventually, we'll show you some more video here of the water dropping helicopters that came in. This is a setup that they have in one of their parks where they actually bring out basically a large pool, and the helicopters, that's 40 King from the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office, can come down, dip in, and take it over there to the water, or to the fire as well. So we saw that A-Star there from 40 King. We saw Huey that was doing water drops that can actually suck it up into the bottom of the helicopter, and then we saw the Black Hawk, the Firehawk from Cal Fire that was able to bring that in again. Delays in getting those there, and we asked about that, and they said there was just that's how it works. They don't have their own dedicated helicopters, guys. So as we come back out here to the desk, that's something that I'm sure is going to be discussed now. You know, you kind of wonder why a county that large doesn't have their own firefighting helicopters, but we'll see if that changes in the future.
Yeah, maybe they'll have that in the budget, or make a vote and try to get it in the budget and have one at least available. You know, you guys, you were talking about that RV when you said there's a lot of toxic chemicals, or a toxicity of that black plume of smoke. You wonder if that RV had anything to do with it, or what could have been burning to cause it to be so toxic.
Hot and heavy. Well, and you know, even on this Google map, that RV is there. So it's been there, and it looks like for at least a little while. And you know, we see those here in LA City too. And unfortunately, they're usually caused by our homeless population. But those burn so hot and so heavy, and they're so difficult to get a hold of. And I was just really, you know, kind of in awe here that they didn't catch that home that was right next to it on fire, because it burned for, I would say, probably a half an hour.
Yeah, before they were able to get water on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, so it burned for a while.
Two things that stood out to me that Eric was telling us with San Bernardino fire. Number one, the danger in this area, because the roads there are pretty narrow. So you got to make sure you keep those clear for the fire crews to come in. And also, because of that dark smoke, fire crews have to equip themselves with a whole different kind of suit, different kind of breathing apparatus.
I imagine masks that they can.
Exactly. It's not the same as fighting a brush fire or
urban. Yeah, and considering the triple-digit heat, that also adds to everything else that they have working against them, if you will. But still, it's just a remarkable job once they got together and got on the scene and got a lot of water on this fire, and they were able, let's say, save a lot of homes. And Mike, as you pointed out, there were several homes that even maybe the homeowners themselves were able to escape with no flames because of their brush clearance and the efforts that they did on their own.
Yeah, and you know, we saw that. I mean, it's no question, I think, that the fire department was overwhelmed at the beginning, right? I mean, we were listening to the radio traffic, and you know, they had, hey, we have any units in staging? We've got this fire that's, you know, about to breach these homes, and they said, no, we've got nobody. And at one point, I heard a request for something like 25 additional engines to respond. So it's no secret that they were overwhelmed at first. And you saw scenes like this too, with that smoke just billowing up right over the patio there. And then we saw those residents, and I couldn't tell if that was maybe an apartment building down there or kind of a cluster of different homes, but we saw one guy come out with a fire extinguisher and was blowing a fire extinguisher at it. We saw garden hoses, and while that's not what the fire department wants you to do, it worked for them. It you know, saved their home. It was in a situation where firefighters were not there. They were not in the area where that fire was burning, because they were overwhelmed and dealing with the fire that was on the other side burning, you know, towards the home. So it worked for them. It's not probably what fire crews wanted, but it worked for them.
I was going to say, again, that's an instinct that if it happens, can attest to that. You're going to do whatever you can to try to save your home. And thank goodness it wasn't to the point where they were telling everybody to get out. I mean, we've seen that before when they're just people escaping just barely. And you know, I'm glad you pointed out that that gentleman had grabbed his turkey and got the turkey out to safety.
And that large compound too, Mike, that we were seeing, that family basically coming together We were talking about how several homes made up this property.
Yeah.
They also got very lucky that the fire didn't make it to their home. We did see, as you mentioned, somebody with just as simple as a home fire extinguisher and garden hoses pushing back the flames. And again, they did get very lucky because other homes obviously did not get as lucky. And as soon as we have Desmond Shaw back up and over the area, hopefully we're going to see some improvement in the firefight.
Yeah, well, we've seen some. Thank goodness for that. It's interesting, too. We talk about brush fires all the time and fire preparedness in, of course, our urban areas, but also in areas that are more rural, or certainly the topography is different about being on standby and having things sort of ready to go. Not exactly sure how much time that people in this particular area had or thought that there would be a brush fire, because we know the fire department was, not as, well, I would say they would have responded quicker probably if they figured like, okay, this is, we've heard a little bit about how dangerous this could be, or this is really could be a hot spot. But, this is something that happens and we have to be on the lookout. And I'm going to be honest, since we've been covering fires like this, since I've lived here, anytime I hear winds and hot temperatures, then I automatically, the radar goes up. And I always think about things, a possibility of things happening. And that's certainly something that Marina Jerica has been paying close attention to. And we do have some sundowner winds with these high temperatures that are going to be happening soon, and I guess over the next 48 hours. So let's ask her. Marina.
Pat, and they call them sundowners because, the strongest winds really happen in that really strong afternoon heating hours of the day, which is prime time right now, right? So it's any time between really 2 and 7 p.m. That's when we really get the bulk of it. And so at sunset, you get those really hot temperatures. The ground is heating up, the air is rising, you get that mixing, you get that movement. And because of that temperature change, you get a lot more of those downhill strong winds. So, it's kind of that downslope wind, that offshore wind. And that is something that really only happens here in California. So you don't really see that type of a specific sundowner anywhere else. And so especially during fire season, it creates so many problems. And that is why this time of year, especially coming off a really wet season, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to get rid of this brush. It needs to get away from your houses. It needs to get away from your property. It needs to get away from businesses, because just getting that prep, getting that more early reaction to it during this prime season is what's going to save your property and save it from spreading so quickly, because we had all of these elements coming together, right? We've got very gusty winds, 20 to 25 miles per hour. It doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it doesn't take a lot when that first fire sparks. 109 degrees. It's still 108 in the area where this fire sparked right now. So we're talking excessive heat warning, dangerous heat, and that's been really the case for the last 3 to 4 days. And we've got another day tomorrow before things start to get better by midweek. We've got very dry air mass that's just hovered right on top of us. Think of a baseball cap. That high pressure just capped us, Pat and Juan, and it keeps all of this environment just sustained right on top of us. We can't move, we can't shift the environment, and so we just have to get through it until that high pressure can move out. So dew points in this area right now are at 45, and 55 is considered dry. So we're well below that threshold. We've got these massive extreme high temperatures in the triple digits. And then we're dealing with those gusty winds with tons of this brush for it to be able to push through. And so it's just all of these elements coming together, and it's definitely exacerbated by the fact that we are warmer than we should be for not only this time of year, but just looking at climate norms. We are pushing into an environment now where unfortunately this is going to happen more and more, because our extreme environments are continuing to reach thresholds that we've never seen before.
And Marina, you're talking about some relief on Wednesday. Looking farther past that, are we going to see similar conditions in the next 7 or 10 days as what we're seeing today?
Okay, so the high pressure has been basically right over the Four Corners region. It's been sitting there for quite some time now, as we know. And it does this dance with us, right? So it moves out of our territory, and then we get a little bit of relief, and then it pops right back in. And that's what happens with stagnant high patterns. There's just not much you can do about it, because they don't really ever move away. They don't dissipate. They just kind of hang out, they weaken, and then they move right back into place again. And so that's what we're going to see. We're going to see relief Wednesday through Friday. It is going to slowly chisel away at our temperatures. We'll get to more average where we're supposed to be for this time of year conditions on Friday. And then the high pressure starts to, rear its ugly head right back into our direction. And so then Saturday and Sunday, as that high starts to get close to that area where once again it creates that dome, it creates that cap over us, it won't be as intense as what we've seen over the last 5 days, but we will get to that 98 to 102 area again for these trouble spots in the valleys in the Inland Empire. So yes, it's not going to be as bad, but it is going to come back. And I think it's going to be that dance of moving away, coming back for at least the next month or two.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a big problem.
It is a big problem, right? Because guys, remember, we always thought maybe like October, used to be fire season primarily, but now it's almost
year-round, right?
12 months out of the year. We just don't know when it's going to happen.
That's right, Pat. And it also, what you got to think about too, is that it happens both ways. It's a double-edged sword. We get a really wet season in the winter and the spring, which we desperately need, but then it creates all of this vegetation that turns into all of this brush fire. But then if we get a drought, then we're dealing with, that we just have tons of things that didn't get any rain for so long. And so those conditions also exacerbate fire risks. So unfortunately for California, it's a double-edged sword no matter what kind of season we have.
And it's a season of extremes. We had a lot of rain, then we had a lot of May gray and June gloom. And now we're seeing these very hot conditions. And something I found very interesting, I remember covering fires for many years. The big concern, Marina, was when humidity was in the single digits. That was the big concern. And with the changes in climate, you're saying now, was it 45, 55% humidity? That's considered low. I'm kind of surprised by that.
It is, and it is a pattern that has only been increasing over the last couple of years. And it is a multitude of things that even start in our oceans, which have only a capacity, a load capacity to create so much heating. And so it only can carry so much and then it releases it. So where does it go, right? The energy goes into our atmosphere and that continues that warming trend, that heating trend. And when the ground heats up, when we get that happening, the air has nowhere to go but up. And so that creates its own environment. Like I said, fires create their own storms. High pressures create their own issues. And everything that's happening right now is only getting worse because we continue to see this heating environment. This is not something that's going to slow down. It's only something that we're going to have to adapt to.
Well, getting back to what you were talking about, how when it's so hot and we have burned out brush, dry brush, which is very dangerous, but even when you have the newer fuels that are more green, that also burns. And I was trying to remember, I wanted to ask Eric that since he works with the fire department, unless Mike knows it because he knows everything. What, what burns, one brush fuel burns faster, the other bigger, from what I understand.
Right, and I believe it's the dry brush that burns faster.
Okay.
And that's why, the wet winters are great, but then eventually it dries out, and that's what we're dealing with. And I believe you're correct. I think the living brush, the greenery, burns longer, but the dry brush burns quicker. And hotter. And I want to show you, this is the video we were talking about earlier. This is what we saw when those residents there, and there's a whole contingent of them. And I just went back and looked at some of the tape, and you've got the guy there on the maroon shirt on the left. Look, that's a fire extinguisher that he's using. Wow. And then there's also another resident that was a shovel and was putting some dirt on it that way. And really the fire right in this area is burning uphill, so hopefully their homes wouldn't have been threatened anyway. But as you see Desmond pull out here, and what the residents must be looking at above them would just have to be terrifying. And there's, you see, they got a bunch of garden hoses out. And you can see people, and look at, that's all that super dry brush right there. But all this charred area here, you get the power lines right there as well. So you can only imagine what those residents were thinking and wanting to get done, because look, that's what's burning right at the top of the hill. And that's certainly not what they wanted to see for their home.
And acting on instinct too, right, Mike? It's a hurried, it's a panic type situation. You want to save your home. Everybody's running around, and it looks like they did the best they could to save it. I also remember back in the day too, eucalyptus trees, when they were talking about.
Oh yeah, those go fast.
Those go fast, and they burn because of the oil. So that's a problem. You know what?
I'm wondering. We haven't been able to. Not that we would necessarily. I know you talked about there could have been an apartment building nearby. Just wonder if those residents, some of them have been trained. There's some neighborhoods they do have, especially with the HOAs, they do get training. The fire department comes through and kind of tells them what to do just in case.
Yeah, they have, I think they're called CERT teams, which is like Citizen Emergency Response Teams. That, for sure, in this kinds of area where you've got this hill and the dry brush and whatnot. Definitely, I mean, we don't know for sure, but it wouldn't be,
There's right where you see those flames under the embers or even inside that home, right?
And this is a video from earlier, Pat. I think we do see that house eventually, just lose its fight against the fire, get destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah. See how close. That's just. Well, that's the house with the solar panels, so it was fine. But look at how close the fire got.
And the house just across Vista Drive
is
gone.
destroyed, and this one is still standing.
And these are older homes, right, from the Shandon Hills area there of Riverside, San Bernardino County right there. And this brush fire that started right around 2:40 p.m. The San Bernardino fire telling us it started in some dry grasses. They don't know exactly how it got started, and they're calling this the Edgehill fire. And there are some evacuations. I think they're still in place, right, Mike? We have a list of those that we had earlier. I don't know if we can pop those up on the screen there, but it gives you an idea of the areas that we're being told to evacuate. Also, the narrow roads there need to be cleared for fire and emergency crews to make their way up as well. And Marshall Elementary School is the evacuation zone. And as soon as we get those evacuation points, we'll let our viewers know.
And the last count we heard at 100 acres have burned. Started out as 5, and it could be past 100 now. Not exactly sure. We need that update from Eric Sherwin from the San Bernardino fire. Unless Mike, you have some updated numbers. But it went quick. It went quickly, and again because the firefight wasn't brought necessarily as quick.
Right.
As people would have liked it to. I'm sure as the fire department itself would have liked it to, but once they arrived on scene, they made really good work.
Yeah, and really, once we got those helicopters in there too, because I think, the other tricky part for these guys is these are a lot of hillside cul-de-sacs, right? And so I think the fire department has to weigh, do we want to put an engine back in the back of a hillside or back of a cul-de-sac where those guys could get trapped in there?
There's no way out.
There's no way out. So they don't want to put themselves in that kind of situation, which unfortunately just leads to homes catching fire. But once you got the aircraft in there and they were able to build a little bit better of a path for those fire crews, then we saw things really start to take a turn. Once they could get the brush out and just deal with the structures, which is what we're dealing with now, things were in a little bit better of a situation. And
did we have one Chinook?
No Chinooks.
No Chinooks.
So we had a Black Hawk or a Firehawk when they fight fires. We had a Huey, a Bell Huey, and an A-Star, an Airbus helicopter.
So 3.
So 3, right. And 2 of them were from the sheriff's department. 2 of them weren't even from, the only fire helicopter they had was from CAL FIRE, and it was one Firehawk. The other 2 were from the sheriff's department. One was a Huey, and one was an A-Star.
Well, you see just how quickly they got a lot done, even with 3 choppers.
Yeah.
Where we've seen more that attack fires, of course. But for them at this particular time, they weren't able to get them there as quick as they'd like to. But once they arrived, they really made good work. And unfortunately, these 5 homes, we understand, were completely destroyed. But we haven't heard about any injuries, any loss of animals.
Good news.
No, and I saw at one point while they were fighting the fire, there was a livestock pen back there, and I was very happy to see that there wasn't anything inside of it.
Yeah.
So hopefully the residents, and we saw the guy with his turkey getting out of his home. So hopefully any of the larger livestock were also able to get out, and we didn't hear of that. We heard of no injuries, which is good, and it just it's good. And Pat, I think I've talked to you about this before. I get so worried when these fires break out at night, right? When people are asleep. So, silver lining, it was during the day. People were awake, maybe at work, not even in the area, and able to get out of the
And it happened quickly.
Yeah.
So you can imagine when these fires break out at night like that presents an even greater danger. Absolutely. And you can, in terms of just being able to see visibility, we're talking about how narrow the roads are for these hillside communities, for the fire engines to get through when it's at night. You've got so much working against you. There's no question about it.
Mike, you were talking about the downshifting of the firefight here. Any new information on that? Are they?
So I'm just looking at the radar here, and it looks like all of the aircraft have left. So that is good. That means there's no more need for them. And speaking of aircraft, Desmond was just telling us they just finished getting fuel, so we should be able to get a fresh picture from Desmond here pretty quick. But no aircraft left on the fire, which again is good because that means they hopefully don't need it. So now you're going to be in the situation where fire crews will be here for, I'm sure, a couple of days at least. Yeah, putting out hot spots and trying to mop up. And, you know, each of these properties, too, they're going to have to do the daunting task of making sure everybody's accounted for and figuring out who owns the property and if they can get a hold of all of the people that may live there. And if not, they're going to have to sift through some of that stuff to make sure. And then you have the whole investigation phase. I've already heard them request investigators because there's, you know, we have to, and we haven't heard of, I don't believe, unless I'm incorrect, but I don't believe there's any dry lightning out there today. So then you're looking at a human cause for the fire, and then they got to figure out what that is. Is that somebody, you know, mowing their lawn and a spark catches a dry brush? Is it a power pole? Is it, you know, they've got to figure all that out.
I was going to say, we didn't hear about any poles being down.
Not that I've heard, no. I did hear them say there was a brief moment where they put out a life alert hazard, which is where they were alerting the firefighters that there were downed power lines. That doesn't necessarily mean that's how it started. They could have burned during the course of the fire, and that's why they were putting that out. But they did have Edison shut off the power out.
And there's no word whether or not some of these homes that we see in this shot right here that were not burned have lost power either, right? Because you were talking about maybe rerouting the power and whatnot.
Right, I would assume, and I was just checking Edison's website and I didn't see anything up there. I would assume that even some of these homes that didn't burn are probably affected by a power outage, at least for now, until it gets, you know, a little bit safer to be able to turn the power back on. And they're gonna have to secure those down lines and make sure that they can have certain things on and certain things off and all of that.
All right, Mike, we want to go to the ground now and get an update live from the ground.
That's right, and KCAL News reporter Nicole Comstock is there with the very latest. Nicole.
Well, first of all, you guys were talking about potential power outages here, and I can tell you that on the way up to this neighborhood, we did see the intersections are out of power, so we're not sure how widespread that is. But you can see this home behind me here is still smoldering right now, one of a handful of homes that had very severe fire damage tonight. Right now, we see fire crews on the ground stretching, you know, a long piece of hose line into this home to try to keep any of those embers from spreading, to kind of cool things down here. As the fire department, San Bernardino County Fire, mentioned earlier, when you have a home burning like this, it creates so much more heat that it makes all of the properties around it so much more susceptible to catching fire as well, particularly in a neighborhood like this in Little Mountain, where you have, you know, quite literally, it is a little mountain. It's a small hillless area that has lots of homes that are right next to each other, that have a lot of trees, a lot of brush. And so once one of these things goes up, the homes right next to it are very susceptible to burning. You might think, you know, why is this such a relatively small fire in size? About 100 acres right now, relatively small area, but we have so many homes, maybe 5 or 6 of them, that have severe fire damage. Well, we're talking about the terrain out here. It's really steep terrain, lots of dry brush out here. And then it was extremely hot today. Even right now, I think it's still about 105 degrees or 107. And the San Bernardino County Fire Department tells us when they got out here initially to start this fire attack, it was 109 degrees. So that makes the fire behavior really explosive out here, particularly after we had a year with a lot of rain where all this brush is really, you know, it's grown out so much, and now it's dry at this point very late in the summer. But their first order of business when they got out here was to make sure they could save as many lives as possible. They know that this is an area that has quite a bit of fire, so all the neighbors here know that they need to evacuate, and the city has their own evacuation plan in place. They have a strategy where they know the first thing they need to do is go knock on doors if they have to and get everyone out. They have, you know, narrow roads up here on the streets, which means that they don't want people to all be evacuating at the last minute, creating a traffic jam. It also means that they need as much space as they possibly can have out here to get those fire engines right into the driveways at homes to make sure that they can defend as many homes as they possibly can out here. Again, every time one of these homes catches fire, every time, you know, they can't get it out as quickly as possible, that just leaves so much more danger to the homes next door. We know that there were multiple homes and an RV burned out here. It's looking like most of the damage to the homes was near Vista and Circle Drive. That's where we saw the most severe fire damage so far. But we do know that they have about 200 people out here fighting this fire. That's, you know, you also have to add in the aerial response that we saw a little while after this fire started, and I think San Bernardino County Fire did a good job of describing the challenge for them that, they're not like LA County Fire where they have their own helicopters and their air tankers where they can just send them over immediately to a neighborhood like this. There's a process that they have to go through out here in San Bernardino where, they have to request these air resources and wait for them to come out here. So, those air resources really do a lot to help with putting the brush out when they have the brush burning to try to prevent the spread of the fire. But then they still have to deal with the danger of embers out here, particularly when we have the winds picking up overnight. You can still see the live shot out here, some of the smoke billowing over to the east of us here. So that's something that they're always going to be concerned about until they get these homes to stop smoldering out here. So the last we heard, they didn't have a good idea of the cause of this fire, but they are working as hard as they can to protect the rest of the homes out here. And again, it looks like defensible space is the thing that stood in between those flames and some of the homes out here. Unfortunately, the ones that had lots of trees, lots of brush right around them in between two homes that were close by, those ones are the ones that seem like they had the worst damage, you guys.
Yep, not enough brush clearance. All right, Nicole, thank you so much for that report right up there next to the fire lines. And our team coverage continues now with Lori Perez.
And Lori is live at the Evacuation Center. I believe that would be Marshall Elementary, Lori.
That is right. It's a very busy day here at Marshall Elementary. I just read a sign, an electronic sign across the street that reads that today was the first day of school, hosting the first day of school, also hosting now this evacuation center. We came here, of course, to talk to evacuees, but not knowing how close we are to the fire. You can see behind the school the smoke billowing, people in this neighborhood watching from their yards using binoculars to see what they can see. You can also see a large number of fire trucks down the street here are stationed, because we understand if we can walk down this sidewalk, we'll get closer to them. The fire trucks are stationed at the end of the road that leads up to that neighborhood. So locals tell us that's the way they get up there. They are stationed there as they are working to relieve crews and adding to crews that are fighting the fire. Across the street here in front of Marshall Elementary, you might see some people sitting on a bench. We did yell over to them. They are evacuees. Across the street on the bench there in front of the school is a family with some pets and small children. They are part of the people who have been evacuated from homes seeking relief. And to echo Nicole, it is extremely hot here. It is also extremely windy, which are just two really horrible additions to these wildfires. Those are the things that really help to fuel these fires and make it very challenging for firefighters. They have been out here for several hours now, since about 2 o'clock. So, as the hours go on, things are getting more and more difficult, more challenging for these firefighters who are having to endure in the heat. Down here, though, at Marshall School, crews, other emergency workers doing their part to help to care for families who have to stay out of the way and seek safety as the firefight continues. And people in the neighborhood here who are watching this billowing smoke are also having some concerns. As soon as we parked just a few moments ago, a gentleman walked up to us asking if we knew if this area was also going to be under an evacuation order. We do not believe that that is the case at this point, but this billowing smoke certainly frightening to people who are watching it, and frightening as they hear about the number of houses that have burned. A really anxious time out here in San Bernardino today, especially for these families who are seeking safety at this Marshall School right in the shadow of the fire. Overhead, you might be able to see and hear. That's part of the air response that is helping to take care of this fire. Again, just another kind of frightening things for these families. As grateful as they are that, help is on the way, it's got to be very anxious for them to be standing and sitting here so close yet so far from their homes as they continue to watch and hear about this fire burning. We're going to go over there and try to talk to some families about how they're feeling and their concerns as this continues, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, guys.
Okay, Lori, I was going to ask you that. If you've talked to anyone yet, are they planning to stay at the Marshall Elementary for the night, or is there a possibility that some people could go back to their homes tonight? But of course, that will have to be decided as the night goes on, I'm sure. So thanks for that report. We're not going to hold you up because we saw some people moving behind you. So we're going to let you go take care of that,
All
Laura.
right, let's check in on the conditions impacting that firefight.
And let's go to meteorologist Marina Jerica. She's got more on this extreme heat in our next weather. And as you heard Lori mention there, Marina, it's still hot outside.
It's 108 still there.
Wow.
You know, they topped out at 109, and we're not going to see any relief tomorrow. It's not really until Wednesday that we start to crack that high pressure and start to change things up a little bit. But conditions there right now in San Bernardino have been pretty static, and unfortunately, all of the conditions were very ripe for